You see the going to come champions. Celtic way, wait for the ball from side to side, and until they try to hide, the wait for the ball from front to back. Attack, 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 67. And then he's a first man, the buzzing and the power.
Sorry, Paul, I'm you muted there, bud. I think that's us when you go.
Yep.
Hi.
Hello and welcome to episode 108 of Celtic Rumours TV, the Bawz and Bovril podcast with your host Mark and myself, Paul. Joining us tonight, as always, we have Terence, Terror61 from our forum page of the podcast, www.celticrumours.co.uk. You can also check out the links to the podcast in the description below. On tonight's show, we'll review Celtic's tour of Australia. We'll want your thoughts on the live chat about this tour and how you think Celtic prepared for it and how we did in it. We'll also talk about the season so far, and we'll do a brief ending to the show with a look at the opening game between Qatar and Ecuador in the World Cup, and we'll talk about the World Cup in general. Joe Hart said that this tour to Australia was more about unity and something that the club won't forget about as players together. I suppose meeting Australian president.
No, shout-outs in that.
No, I'm not finished, Mark. Not finished.
Oh, is this still your intro?
Yes, man. Wait, bye.
Jesus, wait,
Joe
man.
Hart,
You've been busy today.
Joe Hart said that this was all about bringing the Celtic players together, something they won't forget as a team visiting Australia. He said it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, meeting the Australian president, who was a former fireman, former lifeguard, former police officer. Alf Stewart, of course, is his name.
You know, home and away. Alf
Stewart. But he was everything in home and away. Do you get me? That's my joke. He was president. He was fireman.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, bud. I didn't mean that. Sorry, Paul.
So he said, Alf Stewart repeated that it was an honour to meet this Celtic team, and so there's Mark with the shout outs there for ruining my effect. Enjoy.
God, sorry about that, bud. I didn't mean that.
It was good though, wasn't it?
Aye, is that his name? That's weird, isn't it? Fair dues to a guy, but if he's done all that in his life, you know what I mean? Fair play to him. Some quick shout outs to the lads off the forum, old Tim Alloy, Richie and his family, Glasgow Green, wee John United Ireland. I'll mention him in a wee minute when I talk about the food bank as well. Guys in the live chat, Big Jabber, Brian, nice to see you. Bobby, always there, good to see you again, Bobby. David, same to you, David, nice to see you, buddy. I think that's everybody that's in the now. Big Jabber, in case I missed him there, sorry about that, Jabber. We're up to 639 or 640 subs, so it's sneaking up. Thanks to everybody that listens in. If you know how to subscribe to it, if you've not subscribed, please subscribe. If you know how, leave a comment, and remember, hit the like button as well. That helps everything. Helps us grow in the YouTube algorithm. We're food bank appeal. This is our 6th year of collecting money for my local food bank, the one in Hamilton. And we're already up at £350, which is fantastic. It's only been going about 3 weeks or something like that, and it usually kicks in at the end of the month when people get paid and stuff like that. So if you can afford to give anything, please do. If you don't, it doesn't make any difference. The link for everything's in the description box below, but through our link tree, everything's in that. The link to the Just Giving page for the food bank collection. And just talking about wee John went away today. He was away out the house at 3:30 this morning, to do a car boot sale. And a big massive car boot sale in Glasgow, and he went and done that just with stuff that he had clearing out his house and that. And managed to raise, I think it was 100 £160 he managed to get in for this car boot sale today. He's got to put £100 of that into the food bank collection, and he's going to give the rest of it to a homeless charity around about his area. They're looking to buy like gloves and scarves and stuff like that to help keep the homeless people warm. So big up to wee John, United Ireland. He always steps up at a time when there's any charity.
He does, right? You have to say that to him, right? He does.
He really does. He's a good lad. There, William in as well. Nice to see you, William. I think that's me, Paul. Everything.
Yep. So Celtic's tour of Australia came to an end, losing 2-1 to Sydney and losing 4-2 to penalties against Everton this morning. Everton manager travelled nearly 10,000 miles to Australia to set up his team like Livingston. Maybe he actually was on the phone to Mick Martindale to get advice how to play against Celtic, as this was...
Maybe he was auditioning for the job at Ibrox.
Oh, I'm thinking, did he actually think he'd get a point in the Premier League, Mark, if he drew against Celtic in the relegation battle? You know, to not experiment in the friendly is just ridiculous. Celtic over the 2 games created 48 chances on goal, only scored 1 goal. It seemed a bit like deja vu for Celtic. In Australia, replicating off form in front of goal in the Champions League. Giacomarcus missed another penalty for Celtic. That's 3 out of 4 now. Gia has missed, of course, Gio scored 9 out of 10 penalties in the Dutch League prior to his move to Celtic, but hasn't brought that penalty form to Glasgow with him. Celtic were guilty of missing chances over the 2 games. Kyogo missing chances, Abada missing chances. Marcus, we're not going to dwell too much on scorelines because look, it's friendly, but it is concerning reading reports that these sitters that were missing are continued even into friendly games now. You know, I believe Kyogo's missed today and Abada's missed were shocking.
Aye,
you know.
Aye, it's been a continuous thing, Paul. It first kind of highlighted to me, Paul, getting back to the first Real Madrid game. That's when it kind of we started, because then we started saying, "Oh, that was some chance. Only if that was going in." Evening, Rod. Nice to see you, Rod. Nice to see you in, bud. And it just seems to be continuing for then, Paul. We just seem to be struggling to get the ball in the net. It doesn't seem to matter who the opposition is, how clear-cut the chance is, we just seem to be actually struggling just to actually get the ball in the net. But see, if we were scoring half the chances we were making, Paul, we'd be going back to pumping these teams, you get what I mean? And it's just, I mean, somebody said it there, they think we should be bringing in another striker. I totally agree with that. I really do. I think... I was
looking at that today, right, and I was actually surprised to see Mark. Johnny Kenny, who we signed from Sligo, was actually called back from Queen's Park. His loan spell. The Celtic B team actually called him back. Steve McManus called him back because he wanted him. He said it was more beneficial for him to stay at Celtic and play the way Ange wants to play rather than be kind of a target man at Queen's Park, which he was being used as a target man. So he was called back in his first game back against, I think it was West Ham. I think we played in a friendly there. Was it last week? I think the Celtic B team played a friendly against West Ham. And they used his pace and they passed the ball through and he did a lovely dink over. Now, I'm not saying he's going to step up and change or striking thing, Mark. He's too young for that. Like, the lad's only 19, do you get me? He's not going to come and change it. But like in these type of games, Mark, like if we're winning 2-3-0, like bring the young lad on, let him get minutes, let him get used to the first team environment. Maybe he will score a goal, I think, but there's something serious needs to be done with the strikers at the moment. And I agree with you. Like, do we bring in a striker now in January, or do we take this risk, Mark, that we're 9 points clear and maybe get a proper striker in the summer and kind of not panic by in January, pay off the odds?
Well, it depends what's available, Paul.
Yeah.
What kind of market we're short, man. I mean, Is the price going to be that? For the kind of expected market Celtic shopman, Paul, paying over the odds is maybe an extra £1.5 million, £2 million, which it sounds a lot of money to us. It's not really a lot of money in football terms when you consider some of the big transfer fees where gone in January or gone in the summer could make the difference for 20 million, £15 million. It's a big difference, but I would like to see. See, we don't even need to worry about these European qualifiers next year as well.
No,
that's it, because that was one of always the panics. Get them at try. We slagged Peter Lawler for years. He would never pre-planned. He never get players in early because the ideal time really is to bring a player in if you're playing these early European qualifiers. It really is, Paul. Gives a guy 5, 6 months to get up to speed and get to know his teammates and that. So without them, we're not going to have them to contend with. It's a bit of a tricky one, but. I mean, I was talking to you last night, Paul. Can he see Ange messing up a 9-point lead in the league?
But I'm just looking there, and it's just something I observed, Mark. Right, like I'm looking like, is there frustration in Giacomarcus, right? The reason I'm saying that is because Kyogo isn't on form. We have to agree that. And I know the last couple of 2 games he did score goals, but it's like 1 in every 5 chances.
Kyogo he's not consistent enough.
Yeah,
Kyogo's never an out-and-out striker, Paul.
No,
I've said that for the first time I've seen him.
Exactly, yeah. But no, with this frustration, like you saw it there, I don't know what game it was, Mark, when he came off, and he looked a bit pissed off when he came off. Like, and I'm just thinking, if he did bring another striker in Jan, would this actually piss Giacomarcus off more? You know, because I'm sensing a bit of tension with Giacomarcus that he's not starting.
It might be. I mean, I would be a bit pissed off, to be honest.
Of course,
Paul.
yeah.
I mean, he is the best striker at the club, and Ange just doesn't seem to fancy starting him, didn't he?
No, and considering, Mark, what we're saying, like he's the one threat, really, like the way we play with these crosses, he's the one threat that would get on the end of them. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
You know, it's.
I mean, it's. I've said it all along. I know he's kind of done it a wee bit during a couple of games. I would like to see Kyogo dropping back at the slot, Paul. I think that would be his best position, like playing after the main striker. And as I said, Giacomarcus is the best striker we've got the now. And we're talking about going out and signing somebody, Paul, but how many goals would Big Gio get as if he was starting at games every week?
Yeah.
We wouldn't maybe need to be. Do you get what I mean? If he was playing a lot more minutes, he maybe wouldn't be, I'm not saying desperate, but wouldn't it be this clamour that, we need another striker because we're no finishing chances? Because the striker, Paul, it's like a goalkeeper. It all comes down to like the match shot. There can all be fitness and stuff like that, but it all comes down to actual match sharpness. Because they're playing, it's the 2 high pressure points, isn't it? The goalkeeper and the striker.
And if he's not scoring goals either, Mark, it's going to affect the striker. Do you know what I mean? If he's not scoring goals, it's like, but like bringing on Giacomarcus as well, Mark. When Kyogo started bringing Giacomarcus on every time 65 minutes, like it's not really giving him enough time to actually just get into the game itself. Do you know what I mean?
We thought it was going to be like
half and half, like
even that, but we always thought, right, it's going to be depending on the opposition. But it was like, I mean, don't get us wrong, Kyogo scored against Livingston, so we can't fault it for that. But everybody expected it'll be Giacomarcus starting just because of the way Livingston play. So will Ange go to it right that day? But I just find it weird that it's always Gio that's the sub. Do you get what I mean? You've touched on it, Paul. Is the Japanese players his kind of favourites? I don't know, but on form for me, Giacomarcus deserves a kind of run in the team as starting as one main striker to see what kind of consistency and scoring in that he can build up, getting a good run of games under his belt.
Because my thing, Mark, is that I be concerned that Giacomarcus would leave because of
Lack
because
of
of
game
this.
time.
Yeah, do you know, anyone blame him either, Mark? You know what I mean? It's
Well,
because if you have a striker and he's not performing, you take him out of the limelight, you pull in your next striker, give them a chance, but it doesn't seem really to be. No, J. Marcus himself as well. Mark has been guilty of missing chances as well. You know what I mean? He's been guilty, but with the chances we're creating for Kyogo with these high balls, they're more suited to G. Marcus, and
aye,
hence I'm saying that Kyogo scores a header against Livingston. Do you know what I mean?
I know,
You
I
know,
know. But even down
you
to
know,
that again, Paul, we're talking about the ones Gio is missing, but would they be missing them if he was right up to speed and
I don't
flying?
think so, Mark, because I said that to you, Mark. I said that to you, Joe, in this Champions League thing. Like, if you're looking on the opposition, like is what Ange says, like he picks his team based on the opposition. And is it down to Ange's lack of experience in Champions League? No one's, and I'm going to say this is like he should know Champions League football. The defenders don't like a forward that's going to rough them up. They never liked it, Mark. Me, Madrid
No,
fans famously don't like it. Do you know what I mean? The German teams, they're physical, right? They like, but in general, Mark, European football don't like these strikers that's going to be on top of them 24/7 throughout the game. And I'm surprised Ange actually didn't start in one of those games, considering we weren't scoring goals in them. Yeah, I think we finished, Mark. I think it was this 88 shots and goal or something like that. We only scored 2 goals.
aye,
Do you know what I
aye,
mean? It's
aye.
appalling, you know, and it's concern to me as well because
See, for me, Paul, that it's not quite as bad as the Rangers thing during Europe there, but that is a scandalous statistic when you look at it, Paul. For a
it
team,
is
for a team at any level, Paul, to make that many clear-cut chances and only score 2 goals,
exactly, Mark.
it's
Like
ridiculous
we're
and it's
saying,
embarrassing.
what we're showing is realistically is we can compete at this level, but we're not taking our chances. Do you know what I mean? You know, like we've no problem seems to be creating chances
He's
the
putting them
way Ange
away.
wants us to play, but it's just putting them away. And I think, Mark, is that the biggest problem? Like, do we actually need an upgrade on Kyogo? And like Ange is saying, there will be players sold to take us to the next level. For me, I can't see Ange ever selling Kyogo. I think it'll always be a Kyogo decision to leave Celtic. I couldn't see Ange selling him. But between the two, I could see Jacob Marcus being sold. Do you get me?
I know what you mean. Honestly, I could probably maybe see that, Paul. If Ange's got his eye on, if you're saying see an upgrade in the striker department, it's going to it's going to cost, unless we find another Diamond or Bosman kind of thing, like another Matt O'Reilly or something like that. It's going to cost us a right few million quid to get a good quality striker in, and then he's going to be looking for game time because he's going to be coming in thinking he's the main man because we've paid hopefully. I'm hoping 8-10 million for him. That's the kind of I would rather Celtic went out and gambled that kind of money on somebody, Paul.
Yeah, because it's not just us here discussing this area of the pitch, Mark. I've listened to other podcasts just to see what they were saying. Like, are they speaking about the same stuff? And every podcast is speaking about this.
We're miles out of it.
Yeah, but every podcast, Mark, is actually saying the same thing. Like, you know, we're scoring goals in the SPL. We're scoring, but we should be so far ahead. Like, I think what was it? We're plus 18 goal difference. But that it should be greater, Mark. Do you get me? That's what they're saying. Like, it should be miles off these chances we missed. Like, they're glorified chances, Mark. Any striker would take their hand off to get the chances that Celtic are, and
there's probably strikers in Scotland, Paul, that we could have signed and they'd probably be sitting on 15 goals for us or something like that already. I probably couldn't name you one, you get what I mean, but we've sort of seen a couple of half decent big burly strikers in Scotland, and just imagine them in the Celtic team now. They would be knocking these chances away easy.
That's what I'm thinking, Mark. Like, do we go for someone different? Do we go for that big striker? To get me? Because if we look at the chances we're creating, these are the chances that I think would suit a striker like that. Do you know?
Aye.
You know,
Aye.
but
I'd like a big, strong, powerful, fast
yeah,
centre forward, Paul. Did you see like the
like
guys that destroyed us in Europe this year?
yeah,
That big Murdoch guy,
yeah.
and Cuckoo for Leipzig and that. Obviously, we're not going to get that kind of level of player, but that kind of style of player, that's what kind of thing
But I'm
I'd be
sure,
looking for.
Mark, there's players out there with slim similarities to them that would be in Celtic's
But even
price
when you
range.
look at Big Marcus, he's no slouch, Paul. When you see him
No, he's
shifting,
not. No, and that's why I'm surprised, Mark, that we don't use him more. Like, and I don't know, Mark, is it does Ange actually not favour him? I know it was Ange that wanted him. Do you get me? It was Ange that wanted him.
aye,
Do you know? And then
aye.
you're kind of surprised then that he's really not getting a look in. You know?
I wouldn't say he's not getting a look in.
I know. I mean, starting. Do you get me?
Aye,
That way, like that he's not starting more games than I think he should be starting more games than he should. You know?
He has been. I totally agree with that. Just even just to gain him the running the team a wee bit of confidence, kind of thing that he's at least he's kind of first pick for at least the next few games. But just again, Ange, it just seems to be Kyogo, doesn't it?
Yeah, and
Even
especially now, Mark,
Terns. Wait, I'll get the link.
what
in
was
for
the starting
Terns.
lineup actually, Mark? Who started up front for the Sydney game? Was it Kyogo or Gio?
Gio didn't play. He disappeared, didn't he?
Yeah,
we still don't know what that was about.
So Kyogo started both games, was it? In that,
Aye,
you know, it's like there's two friendlies there that you would expect Gio to start one of them at least, Mark. Do you know what I mean? I just, you know,
unless he did a knock or something like that. The travel, that travelling, what was it, 22 hours on a plane?
Yeah, and then playing a match, then kind of 10 hours after.
That's it. I couldn't understand people getting upset over the result against that Sydney FC and things like that. I mean, it's these friendlies, they don't mean nothing. What Celtic were there in Australia today was to make some money.
Exactly, Mark, and that's what they did.
Aye.
You know, but Mark, just looking at that game, he started with fringe players. Is our squad as good as it say, or is there a lot of players there that you think might have to be moved on?
It's a bit of tough in that as well, isn't it? Again, Paul, it depends who you're going to be replacing them with.
Mm-hmm.
You there, Terns?
I am indeed. Good evening, gents.
Evening, Terns. Thanks very much for coming on again, bud.
No worries, lads.
Just get up that starting lineup there now. And the Terns we were just talking about at the moment, like we were guilty again of not taking chances in Australia. 48, we created 48 chances in the two games, and Kyogo seems to be guilty again of kind of missing sitters. Like, is it time, like Ange now kind of started Giamarcus? You know?
Well, I think, to be fair, Paul, the problem is it's across the board. Like, but I get your point. Yeah, I just saw the highlights of the games. I didn't obviously see the games, but some of the misses. I mean, Abada's miss. Abada's miss was unbelievable. The one from James Forrest.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
I mean, it was. It's hard to believe how he literally. It's like he literally ran ahead of the ball, and it was awful. But yeah, the problem is, Paul, to get that clinical level of striker, you probably have to pay astronomical amounts of money, and that Celtic either don't have or won't be able to do. But at the same time, like the players, the thing that amazes me, you look at some of the finishes sometimes from some of the players. Like I saw Abada's penalty for argument's sake today, or against Everton. It was a cracking finish. You saw some of the finishes that Maeda had recently before he went to the World Cup against Hibs, and the following game, I forget, great finish against Hearts. But then you look at some of the misses that he's had, and even Kyogo's the same. Some of Kyogo's finishes sometimes are breathtaking, and then some of his misses are unbelievable. It's hard to put your finger on it, but I don't think Celtic have the finances to buy that kind of a striker, that top level striker, because obviously they just don't have the money. They're normally the most expensive player on the team, cost wise, and sure their wages and everything else are colossal as well. So, but I to be honest, Paul, I don't think there's any excuse for the Celtic players. Some of the misses that they've been missing,
Yeah,
regardless of
that's what we were
anything,
saying.
you know.
Yeah,
You know,
like,
there's no excuse like for it, like.
no, like strikers will be. We were just saying like the chances we're creating, strikers would rip their hand off for these chances, Terence. Do you know what I mean? Like they're
Oh, we're guilty of it across the team, though, Paul. And yes,
Yeah.
mainly the strikers, but even some of the misses from the wingers and some of the midfielders. Like, I mean, like if you look at like some of the midfielders, like we don't have a lot of fellas, and fellas can correct me if I'm wrong, but there are Hatate, you know, all these guys. We're not having guys that are maybe your midfielder that's scoring 12 or 14 goals during the season.
Aye.
You know, and that's something that when the forwards are missing continuously, and you have a fella that was like Stan Petrov would have always been a great guy to pop up with your 10 or 12 goals a season under Neil.
We kind of had that last season when Ange wasn't rotating as much, or was that it was down to not having these players at his disposal? But when the two lads were injured, you had Yasa and Abada in double digits goals. Do you get me? I think like at one stage they were at 14-inch when the two lads were out. I mean, is it down? Do you think maybe it's down to Ange rotating his squad too much, Terence, that we aren't getting more consistent in goals from midfield?
I wouldn't necessarily. It's a hard one to say, Paul, but I wouldn't necessarily think so, because I get your point. But like some of the misses that even, for argument's sake, Abad has had in some of the games. I remember against St. Johnson in particular, one of the games he could have had a hat trick in the first half. It's like some of the misses were very, very poor. Even the misses, for argument's sake, not to go harp on it, but Real Madrid at the early start of the game.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Yeah.
You know, they're ones that for me, rotation or no rotation. The problem is, Paul, modern day football, there's a lot of rotation in certain areas. We said Celtic's midfield and forwards are the ones where generally get rotated. The defence within reason stays quite stable, which it should. But like, I mean, modern players of this day and age, Paul, they don't expect to be playing every single game. So I just think the misses just are very, very poor. That's the problem. And the only saving grace from Celtic is that in the SPL they create so many chances that it kind of covers it up. Whereas we saw clearly in the Champions League, when you don't take them, what happens, and they finish bottom. You know what I mean? So that's where sometimes, as I said, you've read out stats loads of times, Paul, on here, and you might say Celtic had 18 shots on goal and they might have had 6 on target. Celtic might have won 3-0, but that doesn't tell the true reflection. Do you know what I mean? When you say 18 shots and 6 on target, do you know what I mean? That's a very low percentage, strike rate. Like,
just on that there for Rod, but Rod there about Cal Mack was always good for a goal for midfield. McGregor's only scored there 10 goals, I think it's 2 or 3 times in all his time in a season, and all the times he's been at Celtic.
And he's actually scored less since Ange came in.
Aye. I've got it. I mean,
I'd say under Rodgers was the last time, I'd say.
2019 to 20, he scored 13. The season before that, he did 6. The season before that, he had 12. Season before that, he had 7. Season before that, he had 6. This season, he said 1 so far. Last season was 4. And the season before that was 4. I mean, I've said that to you before, Paul, about how McGregor, when he was younger, he was that kind of arriving late in the box, scoring goals type of midfielder. But
as he got older, Marcus, he kind of
he went back into this kind of 4-2-3-1 kind of thing, and he just became the guy beside Scott Brown, and that's where he kind of lost that, wasn't it?
I think it was kind of the later kind of seasons of Rodgers and kind of started Lennon's that Cal McGregor wasn't that player anymore.
Aye.
You know, because I remember him getting crackers outside the box, all right. But like what I said to you, from when I'm a big critic of David Turnbull, but I give credit where credit's due. When he got that goal last week, who were we playing last week? Was it Ross County? Yeah, Ross County.
Aye.
what I said to you, like, but this is what I've been saying for weeks on this podcast. Not just Turnbull, but our whole midfield area need. There's no point in putting crosses into the box if we only have Giamarcus in there. Do you get me? You know, like the chances are you're going to pick up the second ball. You know, and that was what happened with Turnbull. He got the second ball. You know, we don't get as much people into. We seem to be more on the edge. Is what we seem to be more as reacting to the ball to get the first tackle in when the ball is cleared, rather than trying to pick up the second ball inside the box. Do you know what I mean? And then the one time we do it, we score from it. When, like, I don't see us getting the likes of Turnbull, O'Reilly, Hayase. I never see them in and around the box to receive a second ball. They're always kind of on the line of the box to get, you know, it's that's just the way Ange plays. But
even, I mean, we know Hattati can hit a dig for outside the box and the edge of the area and that. And
they all can do.
He doesn't seem to be doing enough of that for me, Paul. He should be doing more what you're talking about, trying to get that second ball kind of thing.
Yeah.
O'Reilly,
because Mark, if you think of it like these shots, when the ball's crossed in, we say we're playing Livingston now. When the ball's crossed in, Livingston's players head the ball away. And if we have players in and around the box, realistically, they don't have enough time to react to that because they're facing the cross. If you get your shot away, Mark, 9 times out of 10, it's goal bound. Do you know? It's just my observation of it. Like, yeah.
I said it a couple of weeks ago. I don't. If you just named players there, Paul, and Mark has named them as. Look at Tate. We all know he can strike it. O'Reilly, he's got a great left peg in him. Turnbull, whatever you would say about it, he can strike a ball. You know, McGregor can strike a ball. So you've got 4 or 5 guys that when the ball breaks them. But Celtic's first instinct, as soon as the ball breaks them, is automatically touch it and play it left or right. Play it out to the wings again. And it's a very fair point what you're saying, Paul. It's a strange way to do it at times because
you said on the live chat there, one game when we run the live chat on the forum page, there you said it that to win this game, Celtic need to take shots from outside the box. And just as you said that, I don't know what play it was, took a shot outside the box and we scored. Do you know what I mean? And there's the point. Like, we have players who can do this, Terence. Do you know what I mean? And they just don't do it.
Without a doubt. And the thing that frustrates me, Paul, about it is what you're saying, that we have players that can do it and they don't do it. Whether that's under instruction or not, I don't know. But what drives me mad at times is when I see them and they try to literally walk it in with all the and like when in a defence like Livingston has basically everyone back in the box. It's nigh I won't say impossible, but near impossible to do this one-touch football. Maybe if you're Barcelona, if you're
trying to walk the ball in terms through the middle when the middle is cramped, and then you see Radisson and fucking Taylor over the wings wide open screaming for the ball's not going to him. That frustrates me.
It does either let rip from outside from the edge. I'm not talking Ryan Christie stuff, but I'm talking if the ball breaks, like you said, have a shot. Just for me, Paul, it's just variety. Change it up. Just don't always try and walk the ball through, because teams learn to go, okay, well, Celtic aren't going to take a shot. Celtic aren't, we'll just sit here on the line and we'll pack the defence. And it's very, very hard to one-touch the ball straight through opposition defenders that are that packed. You know what I mean? For me, it's just when you've got guys that can strike a ball as good as some of the midfielders Celtic have, why not? It's proven that when they do it, they can score. So there's no harm in trying it. I'm not saying every time, but there's no harm in having a go sometimes, and just for making it, bringing a bit of variety into the game for Celtic.
What about that there for Brian there? Some players should be being overcoached due to the style of play Ange wants. I think that's a good point, Brian.
Well, Mark, we were kind of saying something like that here.
It's like overthinking things, and maybe always trying to tinker with things, and
and that seems to be creeping in the last couple of games, doesn't it?
Aye. Sometimes it's best just to go and play the game as it unfolds, kind of thing.
A great example of that, Mark, is Abada not running down to the byline anymore, turning in to pass the ball into midfield, kind of
Aye.
overthinking instead of trying to make the run himself. And like, what a bad for me should be doing really is when we saw it last season with him, like Radisson runs to the byline. So Radisson realistically is dragging a defender away from Abada. I mean, for me, Abada should be running to the box at the ball, but you don't see that anymore from him. It's a pass back out into the centre midfield where with 9 times out of 10 the opposition middle of the park is cramped.
It's what Terence is saying as well, but Paul, mix it up.
Yeah. But do you think Mark is instructed by Ange not to shoot? What Terence was saying there, I think it could be, yeah.
I must be, Paul. Otherwise, you'd be telling him to take more shots and stuff like that. But just mix it up. I mean, it becomes even 10 minutes, quarter an hour into the game. Paul, players they'll know themselves, right? Well, he's just going to, although their manager will have told them this. Look, he's always going to be looking to cut inside you. That's his game kind of thing, you know. But as Terence says, leave it up to the players to show a bit of and initiative and stuff like that, and do their own thing when they're trying to break down these defences. Why not let guys like Abada and Jota just get the ball and try and do something rather than what you're saying, Paul? They just keep trying to do the same thing but hoping that it works. Does that make sense?
Because I said that. It's like it wasn't what Brian is saying, but I said the last couple of things when the performance, and he said it here as well. The Celtic players now seem to be spending more time on the ball rather than getting the ball away as fast as they can. The only one that I can see really that keeps the ball moving at a fast pace is Rio Hayase. He's the only one that I think that doesn't dwell on the ball as much as O'Reilly, Moy, or Abada, or Mida. Do you know what I mean? They all seem to dwell on the ball too much. And that's just the point there. What Brian has said, are we overcoached? Do you know what I mean? Are we overthinking?
There's a huge emphasis, though, I don't know, but there appears to be a huge emphasis of don't lose the ball. Don't lose the ball. So, like you said there, Paul, if a bad is going down the wing, and it's something that's certainly creeping in, all of a sudden you see it, and the first instinct is always, rather than, for argument's sake, I'll try take on the man, I'll try whip in the ball. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But instead, it seems to be a case of going down, okay, stop, I'll pass it to Ralston. Ralston will pass it to Man, to Carter Vickers, to Starfield. And there seems to be a massive emphasis on, I'm not going to be the one to lose the ball. It's more of a case of, well, I'm not going to try beat him. I'll pass it here. I'll pass it here. I'll give the safe option all the time. The only one who, as you said, Paul, who doesn't necessarily with the safe pass is Hatate will try the pass. It mightn't always come off, but he certainly tries it. He tries it first time. But there seems to be a massive emphasis from Celtic of don't lose the ball, which I don't necessarily like in a sense, because what drives me mad is when I watch it is if you see Jota or Abada and they're getting the ball, they've got it out in the wing and they're going down, and next minute they stop, and all of a sudden the ball winds up with Carter Vickers back in the centre circle. That drives me up the walls, like, rather than just the winger just going out of the level.
It's like going back to watching a Rodgers.
I was just about that question, Mark. I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that to you, Mark. Is this the way we're playing the last couple of games? We were saying Celtic, they don't seem to be the same team as when we saw against Dundee United, against Rangers, tearing Hibs apart.
I mean, all these stats about possession.
Are we similar to a Brendan Rodgers team, no, Mark, that we spending too much time passing the ball between 2 or 3 players?
Aye, all these stats about possession and all the amount of passes we've had compares with Barcelona. Aye, but what are we doing with these passes?
Yeah,
I mean, that's what we spoke about it with Rodgers under Lennon. We just used to sit maybe 10 yards outside the opposition's 18-yard box, and we just passed it about from side to side to side, hoping that they made a mistake for us to get in. We weren't actually pushing. We were keeping them pinned back, but we weren't pinning them right back and keeping them under constant pressure. It was just, and teams would just sit, park the bus and say, well, when you go, just pass it about from side to side in front of us. We'll just stand here.
The biggest one for me, Mark, is always on the passes one. And I don't know, fellas, obviously the more fellas with the statisticians will be able to bring it up. That's all fine. Show me the passes in the red zone. Show me
Aye.
the passes that Celtic have in the red zone. That's
I
what I
looked
want to
at
know.
that, Terence, right? I looked at
Yeah.
that, and our most pass race in the last couple of games is exactly what you're saying is what we're trying to do, but we can't. It doesn't work. Is in front of the defence, in and around there, it's two centre backs where it's crowded. That's where our most heat map is at the moment in there. So we're not exploiting the rings as what we've done early on in Ange's time at Celtic. Everything now at the moment seems to be trying to, as what you were saying, Terence, is walk the ball in through the middle. And
Yeah.
that's where a lot of our heat matches in and around there. That's where
And it never,
Celtic's
but it,
most
and
passes are.
it never works, Paul.
No,
It never
no.
works. Right, going back to even our European games here. Look at the time. Look how many times we get picked off with fast attacking play on the counter attack. It's not very often.
And it was in
See, no
those
matter who
areas,
you-
Mark, where
no
we
matter
lost the
who you-
ball. It was in those
Aye.
areas where we lost the ball
Aye,
in and around
aye.
that middle of the park.
But that, I mean, it's like the majority of teams, Paul. If you're just going to play the way Celtic are playing now, the majority of teams, no matter actually what level they're at, they're just going to be able to soak that up with pure numbers, Paul. In terms of say, very few teams are going to walk the ball into the net unless you've got somebody like a Messi or together. I mean, something totally extraordinary. It's going to just walk through our defence with doing wee fancy tricks and stuff like that. But the defence just packs in there and you're not going to get through them. So you need these kind of quick movements, get the ball shifted up the park quicker and get it out, as you're saying, Paul, get it out in the wings and get in behind defenders and stuff like that. And we're just not doing that.
Like if you go back to the Ross County game, in that second half, we were really lucky that Hayase grabbed that game by the scruff of the neck. Because only for me, Hayase stepping up, making these runs and making these quick passes that we were saying, we weren't going to score in that game. Only for just one player only. For me, it was really Hayase.
And sometimes, Paul, the problem is at the minute in some of the games, and again, this is only my opinion, Celtic don't seem to increase the intensity and the pace till they concede. Like the St. Johnson game, for argument's sake, the Ross County game. It's very like what you were saying. It's kind of Roger-esque, Lennon-esque to an extent. And then as soon as they conceded the goal, all of a sudden it's like Celtic. When Celtic play with the pace that they have through the team, which have a lot of pace and good and quick, accurate passing and good running, they're very, very hard to contain, especially in Scotland. But when they don't and they do it the other way, it's very predictable and half decent defences can defend against it. But it was only against Ross County and St. Johnson when they conceded goals and they needed to basically nearly commit themselves forward that all of a sudden you saw a different intensity in Celtic. You know what I mean? And I don't understand how they don't play that way. Like
I've said that constantly, Terence, and just what you're saying is that. Is it the players? Is it their attitude, the way they want to start the game? Do they kind of pick and choose the way they start the game? And what Terence is saying there, the last couple of games for Celtic to up their tempo, we had to concede. So the players really, Mark, aren't starting the same games.
That goes against the whole kind of we never stop kind of ethos.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it became a bit of a kind of catchphrase kind of thing, but the players have used it in interviews and stuff like that. And I've said it in the live chats, Paul. I've said it on this podcast. It just seems to be, if Celtic don't score in the first kind of 10 minutes, they just become. That's when this is when they settle into this. They kind of fall into themselves and start doing all this, just passing about between themselves.
And then they start losing kind of all sense of their game, then, Mark, don't they? Like, what am I supposed to do? And
it's not even fast passing. That's
everyone's on top of each other or something like that with their passes. Then
Aye,
but it's not fast passing. Like that's the biggest thing. The passing isn't fast. If it's fast, you have some chance. It's very, very slow.
Slow tempo, slow tempo. And what we're doing there is we're letting these teams against Livingston, Ross Counties, St. Johnstons, we're letting them regroup. So by the time we get another pass in, they're back in position.
That's staying back to their five-man defence with three sweepers playing.
You know, because
Those
if we
Paul-
did start every game with a high tempo, we should be scoring all the goals, Terence. You know what I mean? We should be beating teams well. Do you know what I mean?
Of course they should, but just one quick point is not only that, Paul, but it breeds confidence into the opposition, like a Ross County, like a Livingston.
Yeah.
If Celtic haven't scored within the first 30 minutes, 35 minutes, they're going, we'll keep doing what we do. But
Sure, we
you're
saw
dead
that
right.
against Dundee United, didn't we? The longer was going on a 2-1, and Dundee went up and scored in the 86th minute.
Yeah,
These opposition managers come to Celtic Park and like Ross County last week. The manager will tell them, if you can hold them out for the first 20 minutes, this isn't just under Ange, this is under any Celtic manager.
Yeah,
if you can hold them
so
out
you want
for
to say that to us, Mark? Yeah,
if you can hold them out for 15 or 20 minutes, their fans start getting a bit agitated and that. Do you get what I mean? The fans start going their back, and that gets to the players. That's one of the kind of tactics that opposition managers always kind of use when they come to Celtic Park. And that's true. I mean, it is true.
But your Mark, even with the greatest respect to the best team that's come to Celtic Park in years, even Ancelotti said that. Even Ancelotti said to the team, the first 20 minutes, they're going to come out flying out the traps. He said, if we contain them for the first 20 minutes, it'll take the sting out of the game. And this is Real Madrid, with the greatest respect. So Real Madrid manager is saying this. So like, it's definitely the Ross Counties and the Livingstons and the Dundee Uniteds and all these other teams, not being disrespectful to any of them. It's the exact same. I'm just saying, but when Celtic play at this, I just said, at times it's just above walking pace. It appears to me. It's nearly like pre-season friendlies in some of them. It's very, very slow, over back, and it's only when Celtic play with high intensity, high passing, high movement, the teams can't live with them. And and I would, to go back to your point earlier, Paul. To me, it's entirely the players. These are professional players. They're the guys that should dictate the pace of play on the pitch. The manager and the coaching team can say whatever they want to them before they go out. But once they cross the whitewash, it's the players' responsibility.
But are we missing the role of Callum McGregor in the squad, Mark, to dictate the tempo of Celtic's game? Is there no one in the squad that has the leadership in that midfield that can do what Callum McGregor does?
That's a tough one, Paul. Maybe it's just that the teams that used to play with Cal McGregor, it has kind of maybe lost.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
No, I mean, he's a great player and that, and what you're saying, he's improved. He's vastly improved for Scott Brown left Celtic.
Before I was listening to just before I was listening to an interview there by Scott Brown, and he was asked the question of all the players he played with at Celtic, who would like to have signed to play with him at Fleetwood, and he said Callum McGregor. He said because he can change the style of a game in a split second. His reading of the game is next to none. He said he's just an all-round professional. So
I don't think we've seen the best of Cal McGregor.
No, that's what I'm saying, Mark. Are we actually missing the presence of him? Like, you know, I think we'll see the benefits of Cal McGregor
when he comes back.
If he comes back, Mark, but only if we keep O'Reilly in the position that he is now.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
I would probably go with that.
Into a Moy, take Aaron Moy out of that starting lineup and put Callum Mack in there, and those three, you still have that bit of bite in O'Reilly, who we saw really, and I give him credit where credit. He does go in for tackles, you know.
But he can win the ball as well, Paul.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's a better tackler than
McGregor. You have him kind of, but you have O'Reilly kind of sitting back a bit. But then you have the expertise of the passing, and what you said, Mark. What you want Callum McGregor to do? They take our style of play, but they take our style of play in the tempo, Mark, in their half, not in our half.
Aye, like a slot further up the field, Paul. One of the two attacking a midfielder kind of role. Aye, I totally agree with that. Totally. As I said the other week, hopefully now that Ange's seen Matt O'Reilly in there, he's maybe never gave that a thought before. Do you know what I mean? Because it's always been Cal McGregor kind of thing, and hopefully it's gave him a bit of
Because
food for
if-
thought.
if-
They can play.
if you look at it like it is a big decision for Ange. You know what I mean? Does he put McGregor back in there, or is he seeing what we're seeing, that it actually suits O'Reilly more to be in that role? You know,
Aye,
it is.
I think
But
the two players, I think with the two players, Paul, as you're saying, there is a very, very fair point, because I think McGregor, for me, offers more going forward,
mhm.
and in the holding role, it kind of nullifies that. Whereas O'Reilly, to me, certainly looks really good in that position. And for me, one of the big things is I think McGregor has the legs to get up and down. I don't think O'Reilly has the legs to get up and
That's
down.
true, Terence. Yeah, it's true.
You know, I
Mhm.
think it suits. O'Reilly's a classy footballer, but I don't think he doesn't seem to have the thing to get up and get back. Whereas McGregor seems to be that bit quicker, that he seems to be able to get up and get back. So for
And
me,
also,
I keep O'Reilly there.
and also what I noticed as well on O'Reilly, he kind of stays in that kind of pivot role. He doesn't seem to. He doesn't kind of
Doesn't wander basically.
move out of it. Like, it doesn't wander away like we saw when McGregor moved forward and we're caught then when there's an attack on our back line. Do you
and
know what I mean?
that's what you need in that
But
position.
that's what we want, Mark. Yeah,
Aye,
that's what we want. We want some to stay. Like, this was what I've been saying since Ange came in, Mark. We need someone who just sits in that pivot role, and that's basically what I'm seeing of O'Reilly. He actually stays in position. But I watched the Ecuador game today, and I watched their defensive midfielder. Just get him up there. Menzal's his name, I think it was. I actually looked him up, that I was actually so impressed with this lad today.
Oh,
The way he,
Paul, come on.
no, it wasn't just because it was Qatar. Is the way he conducted himself, Mark. Do you know what I mean? If you watch him off the ball, he just stays in his position. He breaks up play. There's nothing fancy about him. It's just
Evening,
what I'm.
Luke, just be shout out. Evening, Luke. Thanks very much for coming in again, mate. Nice to see you, buddy.
Because what I'm saying is, like, the job we want someone to do, and if we want to do is, if I was Ange and if I was watching that match, I'd go to O'Reilly. Just watch the fella. I'm not saying we're going to sign him. I just said just watch what he does. You know, he stays in and around the centre circle. He's the first to attack the ball. Basically, what I was saying to you, what Ange had in Mida when he was at Yokohama. You know, this was what this fella from Ecuador did. You know, he just stayed behind in the pivot role. But O'Reilly's grown more and more into that role, and I think Ange be making a big mistake in taking him out of it. You know,
and as well too, O'Reilly, from what we'd all discussed beforehand, is a similar structure or size to a guy we've all looked for in that position.
Yeah.
He's a big O'Reilly's a big unit. He's probably about 6'2".
Jim Terrence, yeah, a bit of physicality, yeah.
Yeah, he's a big unit. I think he's about 6'2". I think I could be wrong now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's a big kind of unit that can be. He's a lot more physical than McGregor. He's a much better tackler than McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd be 100% in agreement with you, Paul. I'd like to see Postecoglou just come back and say, like, you're just staying there, McGregor. You're going into the Image Hatata in the two. You can decide who goes and who stays, or whatever you do, or both go and come up and down the pitch together. Use them as like two number 8s if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope he keeps it as it is, Paul. Exactly like you said.
Do you think he will?
So go on, Mark? Sorry, yeah.
Do you think that he will?
He surely will. He surely will, Mark. It's suicidal to change it, like.
Yeah, I agree with you, Terence, but we've questioned for numerous of times when Ange did put someone in, when Ange did take off someone and did put someone in instead of McGregor there. It was always McGregor going back in there. I'd be very surprised if he did. And that's just my opinion, Mark. I'd be very surprised if he did. What about you?
If he did what?
If he did switch O'Reilly for McGregor, I'd be very surprised if Ange would do that.
I don't think he will.
Because is that actually Ange saying that McGregor didn't work in that role? You know,
how many times has he just come out and said this is the way I play? They were talking about Giacomakis and Kyogo. It's kind of the same situation. It's the same.
Yeah.
there's pros and cons for either or kind of thing in that, but no, I think McGregor. I think once McGregor's fit, he'll just get back. He'll get back into playing that role. And again, yeah, I mean, I love Cal McGregor, you know that, Paul. But again, we'll get into Europe next year and we'll get pumped again with him playing there. I said that was a bit. I mean, it's a weird thing to have to say that Cal McGregor is the weakest link in the team. But he really is at the European level. I'm not saying it's Scotland, but at the European level, I said on here for weeks, we'd get found out and it would be Cal McGregor playing that role. And that's what really basically happened. How many mistakes and goals did he really cost us in that tournament? I mean, and if Ange wants to progress the team, he's for me, he's got to look at that position. I'm not saying get rid of McGregor. I'm not saying drop McGregor. I'm not meaning anything like that. I'm agreeing between Terence is saying you, Paul, move him up a bit up the pitch. But
he's more lethal, Mark, and he's more involved in the game as well. Like, you know,
aye, get him up a more attack minded kind of playmaker, Paul. You know what I mean? See if you're going to play that pivoting role, but the deep line playmaker. Really, you need to be really, really exceptional, didn't you? You need to be like Pirlo standards and stuff like that to be really effective at any great level. And if Celtic want to move forward as a team in Europe, that's that kind of position, that wee bit in the team, that's the weak point in the team now for me.
So what's the plan now? So the Australian tour's finished. Are they going straight off now to a camp in Portugal, or do we return back to Glasgow for a bit, Mark? You know,
I think they're coming back to Glasgow for a wee bit, Paul.
And are we getting any time off now, like our neighbours did 2 weeks? I wouldn't think so, Mark. I say this is going to be a training break for Ange, I think, isn't it?
I've not heard them getting any time. Maybe get a few. Maybe she maybe wants to get back to Glasgow, Paul. It'll be a couple of days off for that to go and like sleep off the jet lag.
But I couldn't see Ange, Mark, I couldn't see Ange letting the players jet off.
No, I don't.
Like Spain and Colombia and stuff like that, like holiday. You know, Ange will use this to get his team. Huh?
It's mid-season, Mike. Do you know, it's not. You know, I mean, the only reason it is because the World Cup. So, for me, it's
realistically, this is the winter break. Like, isn't it? Realistically, this is the winter break. Aye. You know, like, the reason I'm saying that though is, Mark, I said it to you, was that our neighbours' fans were kicking up a fuss that Gio left all his players going on a 2-week holiday when Celtic went to Australia and played 2 games. And I was like, I can't see Ange doing that. Like, I think Ange would use this to work with the team again and get the team ready for the second half of the season, you know?
Aye, I don't. As I said, Paul, they'll maybe get a couple of days off in that when they get back from Australia, and a couple of days off later on. But most of the time, Paul, they'll be working, they'll be in training, or they'll be Portugal into they're going to for
I heard something before they're leaving Australia. They're meeting Australian actor and mad Celtic fan Skippy is meeting the Celtic team tomorrow before they leave Sydney. Imagine they're going to meet Skippy and the Kangaroos.
I thought you were talking about Scott McDonald, you fanny.
I know I did. That's why I said it. Skippy. Oh my God.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Well, just what about this?
I'll give you that one, Paul, since I wasted your home and away joking intro.
You did, but you heard that one, Terence, no?
Yeah.
It said Celtic met Australian president, firefighter, former firefighter, lifeguard, policeman. Alf Stewart said it was a great honour to meet the Celtic football team.
Alf Stewart. Oh my God.
Just
Stewart.
Just rating the season, like we always kind of do this, Mark, in January anyway. We always
hold on 2 seconds, Paul. Just when you're talking about, I've just looked that up about, and just talking about, it's an old interview for a couple of weeks ago, what his plans were. It's probably the only time we'll have within the next sort of period to get down to, while he's there, they know we're going to be out here to get down to Melbourne, visit friends. I've got another week off after those games, so I'm going to come down to Melbourne, just catch up with people, watch the games in telly. Then we head back because we'll go go back straight after that and go straight into camp in Portugal, get ready for the second half of the year.
So they're taking
Ange's-
a week off.
Ange-
They're taking a week
aye.
off as a group in Australia. So is it?
Ange's maybe, it looks as if maybe it's just Ange that's staying over there to visit his family and friends, and the rest of them are like the team will be heading back, and then maybe they've got a week off. Paul Bell looks at there, so they've got a week probably to just spend some time with their family,
Their
and that.
families and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, you can't expect. I mean,
No,
that's nearly 2 days in the air. The guys have spent in the last 5 days or something, 6 days. I mean, 22-hour flights and that. Anybody, any's been to Australia, Terence, or that? No.
No, mate, no.
I couldn't sit in a plane for that length of time.
no, man, no. I'd be the same as you. You know,
If I had to do it for about 10 hours and it nearly killed me, that was the longest. But I couldn't
that
do
was
24
to
hours.
Iraq, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But I
was back-
couldn't do Australia, like that'd be too long. Jeez, that would kill me now. I'm not a great flyer anyway.
Just looking at the season so far, Marcus, look, we always kind of do it in January when the winter break comes on. We only lost one game because of that was what we said at the time, and kind of made too many changes to that. And I think that was the only reason we kind of lost that game. I think it was about 8 changes he made to that team that time, wasn't it? He made about 8 changes to the.
There was a good few anyway. There was a good few
Yeah.
against St. Mirren, all right. Some of them were forced, to be fair. Some of them were forced, to be fair, to Ball, though.
Yeah,
Some were
the
forced and
Rangers
some were-
came too. Vickers was injured that time as well,
Yeah.
wasn't it? It was
He
Jens
was, yeah.
and Welch, I think, in the back line,
It
wasn't
was,
it?
yeah. They had a nightmare.
So we're sitting 15. We won 14, sorry. Drew none, lost 1. Goal difference of 37. We're 9 points clear. We're sitting in 42. A team who we're saying, like, Terence, what I said to Mark before, what you came on, there's no problem in scoring goals, and having that of a goal difference is enormous. I think it's plus 18 or 17. I think it's 1 or 20, but it could be more. Do you know what I mean? It could be an astronomical goal difference. We could have by now the simple fact that we didn't take chances in games.
Aye.
You know.
Yeah, big
but
time.
in all, like, it's 9 points clear. We couldn't have asked for more. Graham Souness said we have to thank VAR. You know what, James? Graham Souness was
What's he
watching.
all about? What's he all about now? Is he just come out? I mean,
I think he's just attention seeking.
I don't. Why is he all? Where is he? He's not on Sky, isn't he? No.
No, he's not. No, he's taking
So
off.
where is he coming out? Is he just phoning up the paper and coming out with a?
I think so, Mark. Yeah,
phone,
I think he wants to be relevant again. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Aye, but I don't. Is he on? He's not on that Talk Sport or that, is it? Is that
No,
what
I don't think
doing?
he's on at the moment. He used to come on to
Because I'm just
TV3
thinking, he just
Terence
seems
now
to.
and then, didn't he?
Yeah, he
come
did,
on.
yeah.
He just seems to be popping up everywhere when I
All of a
ping him on
sudden,
everything,
Mark,
like
yeah.
that, like that Crystal Palace guy, that Simon Jordan. That's him thinking. Is he maybe on that
Mhm.
Talk Sport or something? And this is where he's coming out with all this garbage, and the papers are picking up on it.
Mhm.
Guy,
It's
I
ridiculous,
never, I'd never liked Graham Souness. None of Davy Rangers or nothing. Just even when he played with Liverpool, and that I just
I
hate
played
him.
the game. I played the game. I know what I'm talking about. I played the game. That's what he be saying.
Aye.
You know, it's but 9 points clear, Terence. I suppose. Look, we're sitting comfortable. I can't see Celtic lose 9 points.
It's no, this in Celtic shouldn't lose 9 points, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bottom line. They shouldn't. They're more than comfortable in the driver's seat at this stage, and like it's theirs to lose. You know, that's the difference, and they just have to ensure that they come back after the World Cup and continue in the same vein of form.
Good
Continue
night,
with the
Brian.
same-
Good night, Brian, mate. Thanks for coming in, bud. Get you away to your work, mate. Enjoy your shift. Sorry, Ter.
You're grand, but no, you're fine, mate. And they just have to come back, Paul, in the same vein, and they have to come back with the same mentality, and they come back with the same attitude. And from the word go, basically, just drive hard and drive as fast as they can. Like I did always say, Paul, like when you've got someone down and they're down, you need to keep them down and you need to finish them off and
Mhm.
finish them off as
Mhm.
quickly as possible. You
I
can't.
think it's
Celtic can't. Sorry, Paul. Celtic can't give them a chink of light. They
no,
can't give them any slender bit of hope to think that they can reverse this
and
around.
that's why, Terence, I thought it was crucial that Celtic didn't drop points in the lead up to this break. I would have been delighted going on this break with 7 points, but to go there with 9
It's
is
huge.
just amazing. If we would drop points and if they would have won, it's going back to what you were saying. Like, it's giving them more and more encouragement. So Celtic now need to move on from this and go. What we have seen from Celtic teams in the past as well, Mark, is when these winter breaks do come, Celtic actually do come back fitter and better.
Aye.
You know?
That's the kind of the norm, isn't it? I mean, we come
Mhm.
back bigger and better, and they kind of fall apart. I mean, I said months ago, Paul, we'd win this league by double figures.
Definitely.
And I get accused of being arrogant and you can't say that and all this part and that. And look at us the now, we're 9 points clear already. I'm more than confident, even if you want to call me an arrogant gate or whatever, I'm more than confident now that Celtic will win this league.
And Mark, you're 1 point there. Do you know what I mean? You're 1 point there. You know what I mean?
Aye. And there's no way Celtic will drop this. Just absolutely no way Celtic will lose. Me and you were talking about it last night again, Paul. If Celtic lost this league now, Terence, would you want Ange sacked?
It'd be fairly touch and go, wouldn't it?
But it really would be, wouldn't it? It would be
I would.
a massive.
I'm saying it, you know, lads. I would. I think this for me.
Evening, Eddie. Nice to see you in again, Eddie, mate.
Mark, this for me, losing a 9-point lead to a bad Rangers team would be worse than losing the 10 in a row, because you can't let this Rangers team win the league. They're so bad.
No.
Do you know what I mean? You know,
it would be more of a shock. It would be more of a shock for me, Celtic losing this league with a 9-point lead than winning the league last season.
Yeah. I think this league will be over in March. I really do.
If Celtic come out with the same attitude, Paul, and the same drive, and I can't see any reason why they shouldn't, and just drive on and keep doing what they're doing and keep hammering home win after win after win after win, the Rangers they'll just capitulate. They won't be able to sustain it. They just won't be able to keep on Celtic's coattails, because even the fact that they're 9 points behind, they're lucky to be only 9 points behind at times, because they're hanging on. It could quite comfortably been more. They scored a very late goal against St Mirren when there was about 75 minutes injury time.
We lost to St Mirren, which was unexpected. I mean, if we'd won that St Mirren game, that's us 12 points clear already, you know.
Yeah.
And can you just think as well, there's another 3 derbies to go. I'm not saying we'll win the 3 of them, but imagine we did. That's an 18-point gap.
Like, we've a lot of games coming up, like in the space of a short time over the Christmas period. We've Aberdeen on the 17th. We've Livingston on the 21st. We've St Johnstone then 3 days later on the 24th. 4 days later then we've Hibernians on the 28th, and then we've the derby on the 2nd. It's a lot of games to be playing in a short time, and it's good as well, like, that the players actually have this break before this Christmas run, Mark.
Aye, but I even reading that they're getting a week off for that to spend a bit of time with their family. Because, see, I mean, don't get us wrong, they get paid mega money, but you see, like, when the Sky took off it, but I used to see, like, players and they'd be on the telly and they'd be talking about how it's a bit tough, no seeing their family much or Christmas, blah blah blah. But you're a millionaire, mate. But they've still got young kids and stuff like that. You know what I mean, sir?
A lot of the players, Mark, love playing these Christmas games. A lot of the players love the buzz of playing around Christmas.
Aye,
you know what I mean?
And well, this month, this came early. We're talking about there with the winter shutdown, so they could get by it with their family, be saying, "Look, I've got a few weeks off in January," but now they're getting it before this. Celtic, they'll come back flying. I'm sure that Celtic will come back to their best. Just with the time off, getting a wee bit of relaxed time, some Warramere training out in Portugal and stuff like that. I'm looking for Celtic to come back and start really, really kicking on, and for the getting no European football to distract us or anything like that. So I'm just expecting this is what Terence
is the treble on, Mark, do you think? Is the treble on?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Don't see why no. That's got to be the aim. That's got to.
Yeah.
For me, that's the aim for Celtic every year, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it should be. Even the League Cup, I know it doesn't mean much, but you still don't want them to win it.
That's it. If we don't win it, we don't care once they don't win it. Yeah.
As long as they don't win it, I don't really bother much about the League Cup. I actually prefer that some of the kind of smaller teams are that maybe getting to the final of the League Cup. It doesn't really do much.
But you can't win a treble without it.
No, I know what you're saying there, Terence. Aye.
Who's been your star performer so far this season? I'm going to start off and I'm going to give it to Craig Taylor.
Fuck
Craig
off.
Taylor.
No chance of you taking him. No fucking chance, Paul.
But he has to be, Mark.
I'm coming out to smash your windies for that. I've stuck up for him. How long have I stuck up for him on this? And you're going, that's how you done that there. That's because I stole your home and away joke. You've done that.
But he has, though. He's been the most consistent. And
Mark,
you see you've seen when he's out of the team, we're actually not the same team without him when he doesn't play. And that's
Mark, you should go for Craig Taylor. Leave him go for Craig Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. Yeah, I was just about to click onto that there, right? Yeah, you know. But he has done, Mark, hasn't he? Definitely.
Definitely. I mean, we all said we need a kind of upgrade for Greg Taylor, even getting into Europe. I always stuck up. I always liked him. I'd always said it was good enough for us in the league and stuff like that, but we maybe need to look a bit for somebody a bit better for Europe. But he was one of our best players in that Champions League as well, Paul.
But Mark, how would you compare him now to Tierney when Tierney was in the Celtic team? And you not Taylor now in the past, Taylor in this present day, and you rate Tierney in his present day. Is there? Everyone is saying that Taylor came into the Celtic team at the wrong time, and everyone's comparing it to Tierney. But how would you compare him to Tierney now?
Well, I'd take £25 million for him.
I don't think there's any comparison, Paul.
Is there much difference between them now, Terence? That's what I'm trying to say. Like, is there much?
There is. Tierney was. I like Greg Taylor a lot, but Tierney was different. But
he never kind of kicked on, didn't he?
No, he didn't. He never really kicked on.
Injury problems and stuff as well, but he's not really became the player people expect him to be. But
he had that X factor when he was playing with Celtic, though. That's the one thing I would say. For me, Tierney did. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe it's the speed. Maybe speed is a big asset for a fella, but he was up and down the line more than doing anything.
No, but has Taylor improved on the engine in that sense now, Terence? Like his speed and his getting up and down the line is something that we thought we'd never see Taylor doing.
But we don't miss Tierney as much as we have. I know what you're maybe getting at, Paul, maybe no wording it right, but we've always kind of, we need to replace Kieran Tierney. And he's maybe not as good as Tierney, but I think we have replaced him now. Does that make sense? He's maybe not as good as Tierney. Because if he was, another big English team would been for him, and who knows what's going to happen? Do you know what I mean?
Because I think, Mark, if
you can't tell me that
if Lennon was still in charge of that team, Taylor wouldn't have been good enough. If Lennon was still there,
that's a multi. It's like Ralston, Paul. All that's doing the bench for me.
100%. It's just down to the manager, isn't it? It's just down to the manager and coaches and what they did with Ralston and Taylor. You know?
Yeah, but Paul, Callum McGregor wasn't good enough for Neil Lennon either, so.
No.
Neither was Tierney.
No, neither was Tierney, no. So, like,
because if he would have stayed on with Ryan, Delilah, they'd have been gone. So, wouldn't they, Mark? Wouldn't they that time, wouldn't they?
Aye, definitely, aye.
You know, you've certain players like a Tierney and other great players that have played at Celtic, Paul. Sometimes it's now impossible to replace them with a similar guy because of where Celtic play. But certainly, Greg Taylor has become a very, very more than adequate replacement for Tierney, and like the left back role is basically it's his done and dusted. Like he's the number one by a long shot because he's a consistent. I'm going to say nearly 8 out of 10, and 7, 8 out of 10 in every game.
Yeah.
Aye.
Whether that's in Europe or whether that's in Scotland. And I wouldn't necessarily say his pace has increased, Paul, because I don't think sometimes it's very hard to increase your pace, but it's his all-round play.
Mhm.
His all-round
Maybe-
play.
Reading of the game.
he's
He
after
seems to
getting
got
the
better
his
reading the game, don't
his
he? Yeah,
energy
his
and his
energy.
fitness
Yeah.
he's
has went up a bit there. Rod saying
he's-
that his fitness so much improved.
It is because he's getting up and down the park now. He looks. I'll hold my hand up. I certainly thought there 12, 18 months ago, maybe longer, he was struggling to get up and down the park, and I said I didn't think he was good enough.
Definitely,
I
yeah,
thought they
'cause
needed a new left back, and I'm quite comfortable that those words have been rammed down my throat by Greg Taylor. I'm only more than pleased that he's done it, and I agree with you, Mark. I think his fitness levels, that he's getting up and down the park now, and he's a lot more involved. That's a huge thing that's coming to him. Whether that's down to the sports science guys, that they're able to look at it and say, tailor things different. Excuse the pun. Tailor things
it has to be,
differently.
Terence.
for
Yeah,
the rest,
because we didn't have
you know?
these. Like we've seen it since we brought in this fella Anton from Spurs, Mark. What Terence is saying there, we've seen the fitness levels since he came in, and actually less injuries in the squad since he came in. Look at last season, how many players were dropping out, pulling muscles and stuff like that at the start of the season. This time last year, we were nearly down to our bare bones going into the
Aye.
Christmas run because of injuries. So you have to applaud the sports science department and Ange for bringing in this guy
Aye,
to
aye.
rectify this problem that was in the club.
But the only thing as well, though, Paul, we always knew that there was going to be an awful lot of injuries last year because
Mhm.
the
He
levels
said that, yeah.
the levels that Postecoglou had expected, and the level that the players were at under, say, Lennon, were night and day. So you
Mhm.
always knew when he was going to push them to a level that their bodies weren't used to, that eventually they were going to break down, and they were going to break down because the other side of it as well is he didn't have the squad. So you were asking guys to continually come back to the watering hole, to keep going, and you had Turnbull going down, and you had numerous other players just fatigue and muscle fatigue, and eventually hamstrings were going left, right, and centre. But as you said, now they're so used to it now, and with the sports science, their bodies are at this level, and Greg Taylor's a prime example of that.
Mhm. They were like Jabber eating the edibles after an Ange training session, getting a greenie. That's what they were like, Mark. But anything else you want to say about the season so far? I think the only kind of downfall was our performance in Europe. Look, I don't dwell it too much, but you could
I think
say,
that's
like,
what kind of knocked us off our keel a bit.
yeah,
Paul.
definitely, Mark. I said that was creeping into the form of
And I
Celtic
hate
play.
that kind of excuse, or this kind of
But it had, though, Mark. It
a
really did.
European hangover and that.
But it
I
did.
think it was more like a psychological
Yeah, that's it.
thing, rather than like a fitness or tiredness kind of thing to try and pass it off as this kind of European hangover excuse that people use. But I mean, Europe, I was disappointed. It was a tough group, but I thought we should have really. I think we should have got third place. And I'm not getting into it all again. And for me, it just basically comes down to Ange and his stubbornness, Paul.
Yeah. Really did, yeah.
That's how I kind of look at it. So he says he's not going to change. Players don't learn anything. You know what I mean? No, players don't learn anything if they're just getting in and you're asking them to do a job you're not asking them to do every week and that. Well, I think Europe's maybe going to be a bit, unless there's some serious money spent in the squad, because we can't get into the games and play like that. And do you get what I mean? Knowing that we're just coming up against the players we know these players. They've got all these teams. Have got a couple of players that are just totally different gravy to us, Terence. Do you know what I mean? That's the difference.
But I keep saying it, man. The players are playing with Real Madrid and Leipzig and Shakhtar Donetsk and all these other teams, wherever we play. They're playing with them for a reason. The players are playing with Celtic for a reason. That's why they're half the Real Madrid squad, or more of them are probably at the World Cup. There's probably a load of Leipzig guys at the World Cup. There's probably a good few. I don't know. Maybe it depends on Shakhtar Donetsk. I don't think the Ukraine qualified. Whatever they did. Well, whatever. If there's players in those teams that that the club, their countries in the World Cup, there's a good possibility they're all at the World Cup as well. You know what I mean? So there's a reason that these guys play these things. For me, the biggest disappointment for Celtic in the Champions League was I don't think they played to their potential at all. And
Definitely.
it's not the losing. Yeah, you don't like losing, but sometimes it's the manner in which they lost, and they just, for me, they didn't play to their potential. And to me, an awful lot of players looked like they were nearly starstruck and rabbit in headlights moments, because some of the performances, and particularly some of the finishing that we've talked about numerous times, it was, players just didn't. Players nearly looked like it was stage fright that they were there. Where I'm playing Champions League. Oh my God, I'm playing Real Madrid. I'm playing Leipzig in Germany, or Shakhtar Donetsk. And they just didn't. Some of them just didn't perform for me, and that was the most disappointing thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
You
Just get to
you put that in the private chat, Paul, rather than on the.
I did, yeah. It didn't come up
Aye,
on the
aye.
thing, Mark. Just say to the lads there, what's your thoughts on the season so far, and who's been your most consistent player so far this season? If you want to type them in there, and we read them out from the live chat. Mark, I suppose you really can't really ask for more going into this break, really, with the 9 points. Can you? I really didn't expect this.
No, I don't know. I wasn't expecting this to be this far in front. I mean, if somebody put up, what is it, 14 games played?
Yeah, 14 games,
points,
9 clear after 14 games, Mark, and a plus goal difference of 18.
No, I said imagine we win all the derby games. But if the way things are going, Rangers could win every game between now and the end of the season, and we could win every one apart from the 3 derby games, and we still win the league.
Mm-hmm.
Basically that's how kind of far we're in front, Paul.
Yeah,
they're just.
Goal difference at the moment is an extra point.
It's an extra point. As you said, Paul, you're saying, I think we'll have the league tied up for March, and I think it's basically tied up to now, Paul. And I think the majority of Rangers fans, if they're honest, would accept that.
I'm actually going officially confirmed. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean? Officially confirmed in March or something like that. That they won't. It'd be mathematically clear that they actually couldn't catch us.
There isn't a Rangers fan in the world today that will sit there and think they're capable of coming back and winning this league for us.
I think they know it's over, Mark. Yeah, I really do.
No, I mean, they'll maybe not admit it to us or that, but they'll maybe not even admit it to their own kind, but they'll know deep down in themselves that this season. I mean, they're wanting Gio sacked. They're wanting that. I don't know. You can't even mean. Is that somebody Wilson?
You know what they are, no, Mark? They're in the same problem as we were with Peter Lowell on the board with the 10 in the row and Lee Lennon as a manager. Their problems lie far more than Gio, and they don't realise that Gio is the scapegoat, and that's just about it.
Paul, I've said this, and I've argued with people on the forum in that era. For me, right, for a start, Van Bronckhorst isn't your typical Rangers manager.
No,
he's too honest, and he's a genuinely nice guy. You can tell that. You can tell his interviews that he's actually a nice guy. But he's also a good coach, Paul. You don't win.
Yeah, so then one of his Feyenoord pals come out there and say today, the fella Jan Vorman, I think his name or something like that was, he came out and said, look, what can he do with these Rangers players? Like, half of them are overaged. I mean, Gio worked with young talents in Feyenoord. He was able to play. He's like, he can't even play that he wants to play, Mark, because these players can't get up and down the pitch.
And it's the remnants of Gerrard's team. Morelos doesn't want to be there. Ryan Kunt doesn't want to be there. Mm-hmm. Their contracts are out. Other ones, as you said, half of them. I mean, the goalkeeper, he went with that. I mean, that McLaughlin, I used to think he was a young guy.
34,
and he was a kind of their prospect goalkeeper or something like that.
Mark, they're going to have to buy. Like what we were on about last week. Like, should we be looking at replacing Hart? They have to replace 2 goalkeepers. Do you know what I mean? 2, because that young lad McCrory. What is it, Mark? They have McCrory, is it? Down after them, is it?
I think he's in Aberdeen or something, is he?
Yeah, but he's not great. Like, is he there? I think he's only on loan at them, though, isn't he?
He is, yeah. But that's what they'll have to do, Paul. But as I said, this is the time, though, Paul, for Celtic, and Mark mentioned it here numerous times. This is the time for Celtic to really, really make a gap. really make a hole in it. And as he said, as Mark would have always said, make Celtic the Paris Saint-Germain of Scotland. You know, that's Mark has said it numerous times. Celtic have had numerous opportunities to, as I say, when the opposition are down, to finish them off. And really, really make a big statement and a big gap between the two clubs. Like, this is Celtic have a good opportunity, because as you said there, Paul, Rangers are in a bit of turmoil. Everyone's blaming Van Bronckhorst. He can't open his mouth about anything to say that we were bad or this was bad or we don't have money for this, we don't have money for that, or whatever it is. Everything is directed at him. And the bottom line is, their players, as you said, there's seems to be situations with Morelos and Kent and whoever else. It's time for this is the time where Celtic can really, really nail it home and make a big gap if they do it right. And hopefully, with not to be disparaging to the man, but obviously Lowell is gone, so you know what I mean. There's no better time to do it than now and make that mark for Celtic.
Because if you look at it now, look at the squad now, right? This squad doesn't need no overhaul. It just Ange has the perfect plan in place now, Mark, is that what he needs to do is add in this extra bit of quality to the team every season. This extra one or two players that are going to bring Celtic up to this next level. And that's going back to the point Terence is making and you're making. This is how Celtic make this gap bigger. Do you mean we have players now who are on 4 and 5 year contracts, Mark, that we didn't see under Peter Lord. And we're tying these young players down that if a bid comes in, we can go, well, he's 3-4 years still in his contract, lads. We want money for him. Do you know what I mean? So the money's going to come in to buy this extra bit of quality that we need.
Aye, that's exactly it, Paul. I mean, Ange, she really, I mean, we went on about the transformation in such a short space of time last season under Ange when he came in. We were doing it the bare bones in that. But now it is, back then we needed good players in, but we needed a lot of them and we needed them in quick. Now we don't, that's what you're saying, Paul, we don't need that. Just 2 or 3 players every season that's better than what we've got, or if we get a big bid in for some player and he leaves, it's a replacement for him and we keep that progress going. But it's for me, but it's exactly that. We need to start. If Celtic want to be a better club, especially in Europe, they need to start. For me, again, Paul, just it goes back to the wages. You know what I mean? The transfer fees, they don't really mean much in the modern football at your kind of level. Whether you're paying $6 million for a player or $8 million,
it's the gap, Mark. It's the gap.
Wages. If we start playing that, and I would love to see Celtic going out and signing somebody and looking in the market. Somebody in the 50-60 grand bracket, Paul, and that right. And whether it meant Giacomakis to leave or that, right, fair dues. But that player would take us to the next level.
Yeah, I think Mark does what you're saying there. I think bringing in Mark Laurel he's going to bring us into transfer markets, Mark, that we haven't been in before. All these young players that he's been signing for Man City, for Yokohama, for not just them, but the whole Man City group, Mark, because he was signing players for the group, but Man City's the head beast, do you get me? But he was putting these players then into different leagues.
But that's what I was going to say. This is the thing when we're talking about Rangers here. It's no Mark Wilson, Ross Wilson, is it?
Ross Wilson,
it's him that's making these signings.
Yeah.
But it's no players that Van Bronckhorst wants or kind of even needs. That's what I'm saying. Van Bronckhorst's a good coach. You give him a say in the players that he wants to bring in, and he will build you a good team.
Mm-hmm. Because the best thing about Mark Law, Mark, is that he worked with Ange, and he knows Ange from Yokohama, so he knows.
Mark Law could do. But see, honestly, Paul, Mark Law has probably done that much scouting and stuff like that, and get reports on that much. He could probably walk into any club and work with any manager to get any man. However, the manager wanted to build his team or his squad, Mark Law would know some. All right, well, what about this player? I saw him, and do you get what I mean? That's his kind of knowledge. That's been one of the great. Mark Law's been one of the best signings Celtic's made.
Definitely,
it really is.
Definitely, we said that, Mark.
You don't work for a club like Man City doing that job if you can't do it.
Definitely, Terence. Yeah, we said that. We said that, Mark. I think when we first came in, and people said, oh, he got it for the connections of Peter. He wouldn't have came to Celtic if Peter Law was still there.
No, he wouldn't
You
have
know,
came if
he
Peter
wouldn't have
Law was
came to
still there.
Celtic.
But see, even if he did come because he's who his dad was, and that people go,
That's immaterial.
jobs for the boy.
But Mark, but that's
that can
good.
be a good
That's
thing,
using,
Terms.
yeah, exactly,
That's
Mark.
just
That's using
your
your resources
connections.
and your connections. Yeah, exactly.
It's just
Sure,
like
look,
it's like the Israeli agent.
yeah,
The
don't
hand.
have. I'm just
I'll
Mark.
phone
Are
Peter
you
Law.
are you looking at my notes there? By what? By fucking hell.
Mappy, it's 3 a.m. Mappy, where are you from, mate? If it's 3 a.m.
But where did they think Celtic got Postacoglu from? More than likely
Definitely.
from
I was actually we were actually
from the
talking
same
about
thing.
that, Terence. Off air, myself and Mark.
But good night anyway, mate. So a good night. Thanks very much again for coming in.
Remember, we were saying that, Mark. We were kind of putting two and two together, like, and the time when Dominic McCoy said,
he tried to kind of claim it, didn't he?
Yeah,
And then it
I
came out
think
that
that was all down to Laurel, Mark Laurel there.
Aye, because it came out a few months after it, some of the stuff Ange said and that it was really down to Peter Law. So again, fair play to him.
But I don't think there was all the Fergal Harkin stuff as well. There was a lot of the Man City stuff. Was all, you know. Well, so Postacoglu was in that whole group. Like
his deal was done. That deal was done with Harkin. I said that due to time, Mark. And then Dominic McCoy came in at the last meeting, and Fergal Harkin didn't like the way Dominic McCoy had a vision for the club. That he said it was too amateurish for the club, and he didn't like the direction McCoy wanted to go. And that's the reason why, Mark, he came out himself and said that. That's the reason he pulled out, because it was the last meeting he had with Dominic McCoy.
But again, Paul, you've got to question how Dominic McCoy actually got that job in the first place. It's not as if it's somebody just turned up to work in a shop for an interview. Do you get what I mean? Or you kind of got a job, come up for an interview on Monday, you got for an interview, right, can you start on Tuesday? I mean, that's when it was Celtic hired some big headhunting consultancy agency. No, that's kind of part.
Fair enough, Mark. Like, he was the CEO of Rugby, and Terence, you probably know more than me. He probably did great things for the Rugby. But I'd be pretty sure, Mark, it'd be different running a Scottish football club than a rugby union club, Terence, with us.
It was massive. Paul, he was running the Scottish rugby union. So it's the Scottish national rugby team. Like, he's looking after the kind of commercial sides and stuff like that. Like, the Six Nations, for argument's sake, is a couple of games. The winter, autumn, or the autumn internationals that they're playing now, they're a couple of games. Club football is every single day.
Yeah,
every
like
single week.
He wouldn't have dealings like every single day dealings that Celtic would do, Terence. Like, would he not?
No, he wouldn't. Did you see, Paul? There's no players' contracts. Yeah, fair enough. But players' contracts are within the Scottish clubs. The Scottish clubs. You're not going to transfer a guy for 10 million from Edinburgh to Munster, for argument's sake. There's no transfers in rugby. You know, players might leave one club and go to the other, and they might sign for 200,000.
If you sign up if you leave Scotland, and if you sign up for all, you're signing within the Ireland Union, then, Terence, you're signing within the Irish.
You might be going from a guy might be finished. His contract might be finished with Edinburgh, for argument's sake. He might be, and he's signing, and his contract's up, and he'll sign for Munster for 2 years. But you won't see a guy with 2 years left his contract in Munster going in and saying, "Oh, we'll offer $1.5 million," for argument's sake. There'll be no crazy money like that, but $1.5 million for him to come over. It's not. It's normally players' contracts are finished and then they move on. That's what it is. So in my opinion, he would have had no dealings whatsoever in regards to the negotiations. And he wasn't CEO anyways, Paul, of the Scottish Rugby Union. I think he was more in the commercial side of stuff. He was well up, but he definitely wasn't CEO of the Scottish Rugby Union, to my knowledge.
How did you get by the interview process?
I really don't know, Mark. Like, it is like what you're saying there. Like, it's one of the strangest appointments. That came in, like, because
people.
It's 3 interviews. You go for a CEO, Mark. It's 3 interviews. 3 interviews for a CEO. So he would have had 3 interviews. And I presume
David, more than that, Paul.
No, it's 3 interviews for CEO.
But whether it's official or unofficial.
Yeah, but I think the last one, Denmark, would have been with Desmond. So Desmond would have to give the all clear as well for this. Like, do you know what I mean? You know.
But you'd imagine most of those roles, Paul, first and foremost, are headhunters.
Yeah.
It's not like
No, that's right.
Irishjobs.ie, you go on and you go, oh, there's an old CEO job there going to
I
Celtic.
say he was
Just apply for
recommended
that.
to Celtic. I
You know,
say no,
but
wait.
these guys
Sorry
are
to
all
interrupt.
headhunted. These guys are all headhunted. It could be, oh, look, your man is actually doing a dynamite job there. He's in the Scottish Rugby Union. And, you know, there's for argument's sake, look, there's a fella with Peterborough United. He's their chief executive. You know, the fella there doing the job. He's, you know, that's the hiring, as Mark said, the company who are doing the hiring, the HR company they'd be going to speak to Celtic, and Celtic said, look, this is the kind of candidate we're looking for. And they'd have experts in the HR company going, yeah, look, these are 3 or 4 guys that we've looked at, or 10 guys we've looked at. And Celtic will have to prove all these guys beforehand. And they go, yeah, look, yeah, okay, we'll see what he thinks, see what he thinks.
It starts a list of 20, down to 15, down to 12, down to 5, and then you start interviews and
Nicholson
stuff like
must have been in that list on that
Good
time
night,
as well,
good
Mark,
night,
I say,
Rod.
would he?
Good night, mate. Thanks
Mark,
very much for coming in,
Would
Rod.
you think Nixon was on that list when we hired Dominic McKay?
He was.
Aye,
You know,
probably, aye.
I'm thinking they're like just go with like what you're saying, and the way Peter Law kind of did business before. I wouldn't surprise me, Mark, if he was recommended to Peter Law and Peter Law went by that recommendation. You know,
McKay.
yeah.
I think maybe Peter Law and him are all pals or something.
No,
like that.
no, I'm saying that he could have been recommended to Peter Law by a buddy. Do you get me? Or this fella here on the Scottish.
But even at that,
top,
I mean,
top
but
notch,
even
you
what
know
you're
what
saying, maybe he is friendly.
Yeah, you know.
But he
There might
had a huge marketing background, Paul McKay.
Yeah.
Was massive in the marketing and the retailing and all that. So unless Celtic saw him that he's a very viable guy for the expansion and the commercialization for Celtic, that's what his whole background was in the Scottish Rugby Union, was getting in sponsorship and all that stuff. If that's the role Celtic went down because they were, for argument's sake, thinking, well, we're going to get a director of football in anyway to look after the football side, we'll get this guy in to look after the commercial side of Celtic and the promoting the Celtic and getting in the monies and getting in the sponsorship and all that. I don't know, but that could have been a thought process in there.
Yeah,
But,
it is. I guess.
but your man Michael Nichols, Paul, was way more qualified than Dominic McKay because he's a solicitor by profession, and his occupation was dealing with contracts. He was always involved in contracts with Celtic. So any player contracts, either in or out of the club, he was the guy that was the go-to guy for all this stuff.
It was even Ange that dealt with him, Mark, when he came in with his contracts. Ange even said himself he got the job. Or Nick, I've been dealing with Nicholson since I came in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
he's a lawyer by profession. So his expertise at the time was obviously dealing with contracts, dealing with pre-agreements, dealing with all the finer details. I wouldn't know the ins and outs of it, but the finer details of all that. So Michael Nichols was very much involved in that, albeit in a sense behind the scenes. No one would see him because obviously he wasn't in the forefront, but he obviously had massive experience and massive knowledge in that side of it. You know what I mean? So he clearly was hugely qualified because look, he stepped into the role, and he stepped into the role, and he appears to be like a duck to water.
Definitely. You know, and it's Mark, he's the CEO that we've been trying for. It's not about him, it's about the club.
Aye. But don't get right. Good night, look. Thanks very much for joining us, bud. And come on, get into the Discord. Meet the rest of the lads in there. Look, comes out Ballymena for every game, and he's in the standing section. So might as well hook him up with Welshie and that. Do you know what I mean?
Perfect.
Aye. I'll give that for Nicholson, but I still think there's times, Paul, that he maybe should come out. I think
he will, Mark.
Even give some puff piece interviews with Celtic TV or something.
Maybe he might do one, Mark, over the Christmas period or something like that, Mark. Or maybe he's not that type of person, Mark, that wants to be in front of the camera. I think what we'll see him, Mark, we might see him at the end of the season.
But I think as the CEO of Celtic, Paul, you've got to at least have kind of some access. I'm not like Peter Lowell win the paper every second day with renter quotes and stuff like that, but
yeah, sure, he had his own kind of journalist as well, Mark, wasn't it? That if it came out through this journalist, it was going out through the club, wasn't it?
And even he's wee kind of pals in the Celtic social media circle and stuff like that. Yeah. But as a CEO of Celtic, he should maybe come out and even see, like, no, right, we're in a break. Why not come out and do a wee puff piece interview with Celtic TV? That's us in the winter break.
They'd watch it, Mark. Fans would watch it.
Aye. The accounts are out. The accounts are out. We're in this break. charging on in the league, what about Europe, stuff like that. Just a wee,
Because I know,
even a wee nice wee set up interview, Paul, but be like, did you get like with
like the
decent
expansion
answers,
of the
being
club,
honest
Mark,
with
and the
us?
expansion of the stadium, and like I know they touched on that in the AGM, like, but it's different sitting down 1-on-1, and if he's going to answer that question, when does he see the expansion happening? Like it's different when it's kind of 1-on-1, and it's not in the AGM. Like it's more personal, isn't it?
Aye, I do. I think, as I said, I don't want to hear from him every day or every week, but at certain times of the season, I think you should do the interviews, and then if there is bigger issues, and I don't know, was Ange kind of trying to bat the ball up the stair a bit when he came out the other week with this kind of VAR talk and saying it was, I can't mind his actual quote, but it was if he was maybe pushing it onto the board to come out and say stuff about it.
I think so, Mark. He was saying he was kind of you
It's
kind of getting out the line.
It's no in my remit. It wasn't that he said, but it was something like that. It's no for me to talk about. It's for further up. Well, I can't remember, but for something like that, and for his answer at the AGM was ridiculous about VAR, that we campaigned to get it in and it worked, and we're quite happy with the way things are going, because it's obvious that the fans aren't happy with it. It's obvious Ange isn't happy with it.
So you know that, Mark, by looking at Ange on the sideline with these decisions.
Even what he says, Paul, about penalties and stuff like that, about the penalty at Hearts, he's stuck a few wee
but Mark, do you know these, like, soon as has come today saying Celtic have benefits from VAR. Like, do you think, like, obviously Souness is no fool, he knows these decisions against Celtic have gone away, these handballs and stuff. Is he pushing referees' decisions now, Mark, to be more critical on Celtic with these comments like that? You know?
Mark, he's just... I suppose people could look at it as this a rallying cry for the great Graham Souness, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Imagine somebody like, I don't know, imagine Brendan Rodgers came out in an interview down in England and said, when I worked up in Scotland, I represent a Catholic institution, and do you know what I mean? Souness seems, I keep reading things about this, he keeps going about Rangers and their Protestant stuff and things like that.
And those days, and we're trying to get past this stuff, Mark.
Aye, and it's only the other week all this carry on when the Queen died and stuff like that. He was coming out with stuff, and
then he's saying 2 weeks after that, then Mark, he's saying to build a stadium together. Then, like, do you know what I mean?
Aye, it's 2022. Do you know what I mean? These are long gone, a dinosaur that just trying. I think he's just coming out with stuff, Paul, to try and be relevant. I think that's what it is.
Definitely.
It's like, I don't know if you maybe know Paul. Maybe Terence has heard him. Howard Stern.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
The shock.
Aye. This seems to see. There's that much saturation of sport. If you're into football, Paul, you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to radio stations, you can listen to them every day, 24 hours a day if you want to. You could sit and listen to like Celtic podcasts or this talk sport and stuff like that So they need to put something out there that's going to grab their attention, and that's just what that's kind of talk sport and that seem to do now. It just it's just like shock jock stuff. We'll just say stuff that's going to go viral on Twitter. Everybody's going to be up arms on it, blah blah blah, and that's what this seems to be. Souness just seems to fall into that kind of category now.
Well,
it's no surprise that Souness. Sorry, it's no surprise that Souness has come out with this and come out with the stadium stuff since he's obviously appears to be gone off Sky. When he was on Sky, he wouldn't come out with comments like that, because you have to kind of toe the line a bit more when you're in those things. Like, I mean, Charlie Nicholas would have been a similar kind of guy when he was on Sky. He wouldn't have.
He's really changed his tune now, didn't he? Since he's off.
Yeah, so it's a similar thing when these guys come off the Sky, the massive production company that it is, and all of a sudden they're not in the limelight. It's nearly like, as you said, Mark, they need to feel relevant and shock, like for argument's sake, that on the Talk Sport one, is it your man Jason Gundy, is that the right pronunciation, saying it's 4th-tier football. Celtic are 4th-tier football because after getting knocked out in the Champions League, and Rangers are 4th-tier football, blah blah blah. then when I was, a lot of it's just shock jock stuff, like they kind of
Yeah,
to
it's
kind of
bias.
be,
It's
be it's to
biased
be
to Scottish
relevant.
football. That's what it is,
Yeah,
Terence, isn't it?
it's just trying to be
Headlines.
it's just trying to be it's trying to be relevant at the time, Paul. It's trying to shock. It's trying to be the main guy to go. Oh, look at what your man's after saying. I mean, for argument's sake, look at as soon as I said that, we're talking about it. So
But that's
clearly,
what-
that's
exactly, and that's what he wants.
It's like a kind of version of clickbait in your ear. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's like this sensational headline that he's come out with, and you see it on Twitter, so you click on it to see what he's actually saying.
Uh,
and that's it.
everyone would have been talking about my home and away joke there in the start of the show, but you wrecked it up.
Aye, everybody, wait till I talk to you about your message in the Discord, you cheeky bastard.
That's I took. Look, that's it from Celtic. Like I say we can't be happier with 9 points going into. Is it for nearly 4 weeks now till our next game, the 17th?
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. But look, what seeing this World Cup, we're going to touch on the World Cup. I actually thought when I turned on the match, and I was watching a parcel art this morning. One side of the stadium I had all white, and the next time I had colours. I thought women actually brought their sheets out on the stadium to see how clean their whites were. That it was
they're not even allowed in the stadium, but
ridiculous, Terence. You know what I mean? It was all white, one thing, and you could see. And I know there's a problem with this, like paid fans in the stadium. You could see clearly the Qatari support was paid support in that stadium tonight. They were singing. They were even singing for the Ecuador goals. Do you know what I mean? You know, they were cheering when Ecuador scored a goal. They started singing when Ecuador scored a goal. You know,
but a lot of people wouldn't, for whatever reason, one way or another, Paul, wouldn't travel to that side of the world in regards because it's the cultural thing is so different. Like I mean, for World Cups and all these other bits and pieces.
Just be careful about what we say here, but we'll talk
Oh,
about
definitely.
it. Just be careful about.
I will. But I only mean from argument's sake that like they don't drink. It's not you can't drink in these cultures. So like there are little things like where people might have wanted to travel. If it was on in France, there's different, and plus it's the other side of the world. Like.
But you only find out 48 hours before it that you can't drink.
78 million mark. Budweiser paid for those rights for to have stalls behind the stadium, and then they were told then that you said 48 hours. They were told then they're not having them.
I mean, imagine Ireland, right, Terence? Imagine Ireland. Well, Terence, you know much a drinker, right? But imagine Ireland had go to the World Cup and the buses that are leaving Ireland, the planes that are leaving to go there, and then they all land down there and they get told, they're not drinking.
Oh, I know, but the problem is, Mark, this is part of their culture.
Aye, but they said there would, but when back in the word, they've said, we'll allow drink. No, but you can drink if you pay £19,000 for your ticket.
Yeah, I know.
The VIPs can still drink. It's the normal fans that can't drink.
It's
not the problem here about drinking, but
the problem is they probably should have, as federations, they would have all looked into. Well, FIFA in particular should have gone, and have a specific designated area and go, this is the area where you can have your few drinks. I know they can't drink in the stadiums, and there's obviously
they can't drink in the fan zones either anymore.
But what I'm saying, that's something that should have been given. That's something that should have been allowed, Paul. They should have allowed that. That's wrong.
They agreed to it and then went back on it 2 days ago.
Well, that's wrong then. That's just shocking. Like.
Well, Mark, my thing there now is what happens there, because this money was paid to FIFA and the Qatari government. You know, this money was paid to them. So
it's a break. It's surely it's a breach of contract.
Like in this,
aye,
you know what I mean?
It has to be a breach of contract.
And that was before this even started. There's going to be a hell of a lot more stupid things happen.
Because I was reading there today, Mark,
wise and stuff behind the scenes in this World Cup.
There was a couple from America travelled over with their 2 young kids, and they didn't have tickets for the matches, but they wanted to see Qatar and they wanted to see the World Cup experience over there. They got their tickets and stuff like that, but then when they went to the hotel, they wanted to buy their tickets for the fan zone tomorrow to go into the fan zone to watch the match, and then they were told at the hotel there's no kids allowed in the fan zone. After them bringing their 2 kids over to watch the World Cup when they were told they could. You know, it's these policies you're not told when you're going over there. and then when you go over there, they're not there. You know, it's corruption to the core, like, you know.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's no doubt about it, Paul. There's been serious backhanders and stuff like that involved in Qatar even getting the World Cup.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm all for taking football out of the world and stuff like that. You know, I'm old enough to remember the World Cup in America, which was weird. Do you know, it was weird because Americans at the time, they weren't even really into football.
It's exactly,
and stuff
Mark.
like
Yeah,
that.
that USA '94, weren't they?
Aye.
Mhm.
Remember
And
it well.
that's what put me off at international football when Diana
Remember
Ross
the
ran up to
86.
take a penalty
And the goalpost fell. Jeez,
and she missed the goal.
Yeah, and they
She
still
missed it,
fell.
and I was like, oh, this is fixed. This is fixed now. I knew that, but so you can understand that. I mean, it's like even going back to took it to Japan and South Korea. I mean, they took it to Russia. Look at what the world's like with Russia now. 4 years ago, the World Cup was in Russia. And look, the new Russia is the biggest kind of
And this
enemy
was
on the
supposed to-
planet. Stuff. And
This was supposed to open up Russia to the world. Do you know what I mean?
And
You know,
this is just,
and it hasn't, like.
this will be, for me, this is a World Cup. It'll just be kind of, it'll be
Forgotten about.
quickly forgotten about, Paul, or it'll be remembered for all the wrong reasons.
Mhm.
I mean,
Definitely.
look, when does England fans arrive?
I've actually seen none of it, Mark. Normally you see pictures on Sky News of English fans going over there, but what I saw was locals dressed up singing "You it's coming home," and they did. I saw a brilliant one there today. Not today, but when England were arriving, the fans were there. They were interviewing these so-called English fans, Mark, and they asked the fella who was his favourite player in the England team, and he said David Beckham. Next, you see a fella, you see an official walking past him, and he says, no, Harry Kane. You know,
it's just all staged for publicity. It's like, what is it they call it? It's like sports washing, into that's the word. It's like them that bought Newcastle and people into it, they're trying to better their image in the world stage and stuff like that. Which,
well, look at these so-called hotels they're supposed to be staying in, Mark, and they're casinos. It's like that. What was that documentary that was on Netflix about that big huge concert that was supposed to be happening in the desert? Fire Fair or something, is this? Remember? And they had promised them all these hotels, and when they got over there, they were like, these, because see, this is what this World Cup, Mark, reminds me of. You know, I hope it's going to be remembered about the football, but then when you watch the match today, you see that offside, Mark. You can't look at it without going, it's corruption. Do you know what I mean? You know? Like that was
a terrible decision.
But they didn't even. It was onside when they showed the live feed, and next about 10 minutes later, this computerized thing comes out. Do you remember the soap there of The Simpsons when Homer's going from the cartoon into the animation, and he goes through this kind of space kind of time wrap? You remember that? He's walking through. That was like the computer thing they sent out today for the thing, like that he was going through this space wrap thing, time difference, Terence, that they sent out. Like
they might have just used the same. They might have just used the same VAR that was available.
That's what I said to Mark. They might only have the partial VAR that's have here in the Scottish thing. You know, I saw one fella then like
the other one might have been named at the stand or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, Chris Sutton puts out then, I hope the officials aren't from England or Scotland.
They definitely won't be from Scotland anyway.
Even the States, I mean, don't get us wrong, I've seen it, I've looked like YouTube videos and that, the stadiums and that, and they all they look amazing, don't get us. But what's going to happen to them after this World Cup?
I was actually thinking that today, Mark, because football, I think, Mark, wouldn't realistically be big over there.
No,
do you know what I mean?
They've not got the population even for these stadiums.
80,000 stadiums, Mark. All of them are 80,000 stadiums.
Its population be very small over there now.
Yeah.
So these stadiums, and let's not be kidding, guys died building them. You know what I mean? There guys
horrible, Mark. Yeah.
Aye. And that they'll just end up like, what is it? Like white elephant they call it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mark, I would be surprised, Mark, if they'd be knocked down after this World Cup and built apartments on top of them. It really wouldn't surprise me. Just it's just so much of a business country, like, isn't it?
They've got the kind of money to do that, haven't they?
Yeah,
they've got money to burn. And so what they'll make off the World Cup, they can do what they want. In a sense, to the stadiums, like they can leave them or they can knock them.
That's the thing. But Terence, I don't even think they're caring about the money they're making off it.
No, they don't, Mark. It's not.
It's more of this kind of trying to project themselves to the rest of the world that they're this kind of. We're not as bad as we used to be. We're trying to better
there's no human rights kind of cases of there anymore, Mark, isn't it? Yeah, like there's no kind of. That's what this World Cup seems to be like. Do you know what I mean? And it's going to be remembered for all the wrong reasons. This is what this World Cup is going to be like.
I mean, every country's got to have its rules and laws and regulations and stuff like that. But
of course, Mark. But
whether you agree, even down to the fact, stuff. See whether you agree with people's opinions on stuff or no, they're quite entitled to have these opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, but you know when Russia had the World Cup, Mark.
But there's a flip side to that as well. Do you get? I mean, it's like the way you're not allowed to be gay and stuff like that. But whether you agree with people being gay or don't like gay or whatever, that shouldn't just.
It's their business, yeah.
Aye. It's nothing to do with you whether somebody's gay or no. Really, do you know what I mean? They shouldn't feel outlawed in a country. I mean, you can't
be honest, Mark.
You can't tell me there isn't gay people out to watch that World Cup.
Oh, definitely, Mark. But to be honest, Mark, if I was a gay man, I wouldn't go off to Qatar to watch the World Cup. I really wouldn't. I'd be afraid of my life to go over there.
See, I don't really understand how bad it could be, but I don't know if they can just grab you off the street, Paul. But again, it's nobody's business what you do with your personal life kind of thing. And things like that shouldn't come into it. See, if you're that kind of country, you shouldn't be allowed to host these kind of events. That's what I'm basically trying to say. If you're not willing to just be an open, decent, you get what I mean? Country welcoming people with off faiths or religions or genders or whatever.
They have to be able to accept. They have to be able to accept that people are going to respect their cultures, but they also have to understand that they have to respect other people's cultures coming in. If people, i.e., if Irish people like, and the Scottish or the English or whatever, they like their few points. They need to be able to facilitate that for them in a specific. If they wanted in a designated area, that's fine. Or if people want to do, if people want to do certain things and they've got certain aspects of it, like that. If you said if there's gay people there, lesbian people there, that's their prerogative to be whatever they want to be. If they're like that, and if it's Ireland or France or England or who's ever over there, Holland, whatever, they should be perfectly entitled to go to Qatar to watch the World Cup and be the person that they be at home. They shouldn't have to go there and be different. And Qatar should have they should be able to openly welcome these people again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because we always hear FIFA saying football is not about politics. And the World Cup, Mark, is about these cultures, different cultures coming together, celebrating together, watching football together. But then you look at what's happening there. It's clearly not. And I know it's a horrible thing to say, Mark. It's a horrible thing to say because there is war in Ukraine. But it's okay to wave a Ukrainian flag at a match, and it's not okay to raise a Palestinian flag at a match.
Aye,
you know.
Exactly.
So clearly, FIFA is political. You know, and it picks and chooses when it wants to be political.
You know, Eddie,
war is war, and I'm against war. You know,
Eddie's hitting it on the he dares in the live chat. FIFA said any balls that have cancelled the tournament, sent the teams home. FIFA and the sponsors sue the shit out Qatar. An immediate
because it's fucking money in their back pockets, Mark, isn't it? Yeah, that's the problem.
And there you go. Of
like
course,
this fella, what's his name, Mark?
That would mean returning all the gift bags with Rolex watches and
the brown
envelopes. That's what
like this fella, what's his name, Mark? What's the Infantino? Is that his name?
Infantino, aye.
So he came in. I watched this documentary, Corruption FIFA on Netflix. Terence, if you have Netflix, this is just an amazing watch. Like I knew FIFA was corrupt, but I didn't know the extent of how FIFA were corrupt. And when Blatter went, this fella came in because basically, what's his name, Mark? Platini, the French fella, Platini, was caught up in a bid with Blatter, and he came in and he said that he's going to wipe out all corruption and change the things that is FIFA will be democracy and thing. He said that when he came in. He's up for FIFA presidency at the end of the year, and no one is running against him. So how is it a democracy when he said he wants it to be a democracy? And he's the only front runner to be running for the FIFA presidency next year. I think the fella, the former Celtic player, Varga, is going to run against him again, but he won't even get the vote to get in there,
No.
Mark. Do you know what I mean?
No.
You know, it's a cult, and that's what it is. If you're outside FIFA, you're not involved in nothing. You know what I mean? It's, you know, back to the football side of it.
Evening, you,
Sorry?
Deef. Nice to see you. I know you're late, mate, and we'll be finishing up shortly.
Mhm.
Celtic Forever. I can't put links on when I'm on this StreamYard, but just look up Celtic Forever on YouTube and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, lads, he's some great videos.
Cracking
Great videos of Celtic fans and stuff like that celebrating. Great videos, you know. Big blow for France today. Benzema is out of the World Cup. He picked up a tear and a thigh injury after coming back into the first training session yesterday. They've called up no one, but Griezmann now I think is going to be the number one. But that's a big blow for France, Mark.
Aye.
Yeah, I actually had France as a team to win this, but I think now with Benzema being out, it's a big blow.
Aye, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Paul.
I'm not...
sorry, Mark. For some strange reason, my wife wants to say something. So apologies about this. I deny all responsibility or whatever she says. All right, she said something about what I said about the FIFA thing there a few minutes ago. So,
ladies and gentlemen, our first
woman, our first female caller.
Hello,
welcome,
I'm
Emma.
sorry to
hijack.
Welcome.
Welcome.
I just want to say very quickly about what you guys were saying about FIFA. I totally disagree with what Taryn said about people they should be able to go over to Qatar and be who they are and act whatever way they want. I think that's actually not right. I think that we expect people to come in and accept our culture and blend in. Yeah, add their culture to our culture, but not take over. And I think this actual World Cup is actually purely going to be about the football. It's not going to be about the session, the drinking, all the hooligans that are following these football clubs around. I think this is actually going to be about the proper football. So
that's an interesting point, actually, Emma. I never took that.
Because I actually heard a guy talking on RTÉ1 radio, which we have over here, and he was saying it's a sad state.
I'm from Cork.
Yeah. So he, for other people who are listening, he was actually saying it's a sad state of affairs if people can't attend a football match for 3 hours without having to have a drink. And he's right.
But then, Emma, you're right what you're saying there. But then, if you go back then to this American couple that came over with their kids, and they told their kids that they can go into the fan zones with their kids to watch the match, and then they travel from USA, and then they're told then they can't buy their tickets because their kids aren't left in there. I mean, there's certain things that they're saying you can do, but when you go over, then you're not being told to. So, should they relax their laws slightly to accommodate the fans, is what we're saying?
Yeah, and I do appreciate that, Qatar is extremely strict, especially on females and LGBT as well.
Would you?
I would.
Would you feel comfortable go up there to watch this football?
Yeah. 100%. I've gone to India. I've been in China. I've adapted to mix with cultures. And I feel that, I think that's a sign of respect. I think people should respect our country when they come here and be equal. So, yes, I understand that I don't know every single detail of it, and I definitely won't say I do, but I just feel the alcohol side of it. And as somebody else was saying about Budweiser was one of their biggest sponsors. I think they spent millions, to get this and how it'll impact them. Well, really, is this not about football? Well, and Budweiser, I really doubt for 1 second that Budweiser had not researched Qatar, was not fully aware of restrictions and limitations before they put in their bid.
Emma, they told them that it would allow them to sell drink 2 days ago.
Yeah, I heard that
That was
also.
that was the kind of thing that Budweiser's
Yeah.
kind of scunnered about, which it's their money to it. You can see why they're kind of that way.
I do. And yeah, and I do appreciate that, you know, that would be very frustrating. But I just feel, I don't know if anyone else saw recently, there was it today or yesterday, that a group of football supporters, I won't mention where they're from, were in a bar and they were heckling female staff in the bar and were arrested. You know, like that's not appropriate.
I
Do you know?
think what you're saying is, well, Emma, is that I think this will be one of the first World Cups that
Yeah.
we actually won't see violence in it, because they won't
I
stand for it.
really hope so.
Yeah.
And I actually,
And it is sad,
I-
like, because it's taken
Yeah.
over the game. It's taken the
it
highlight
is.
away
It's totally taken away from the sport, the players. I'd say, you know, I think it'll be quite interesting. I think let's give it a shot. Let's see how it turns out, because I
That's
think,
what we're hoping,
you know,
Emma. That's what
yeah.
we're hoping. We're hoping that
Mm.
that we're not talking about this stuff and we're talking about the football. That's what we're hoping
Exactly,
for.
and it'll be interesting. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry for coming. I was
Not at
trying
all.
to
We were going to
write
ask
to you guys,
we
but
were
I
going to ask
wasn't
you,
quick enough.
are you free next week? Terence is sacked. So are you
Definitely
free
not.
next-
I don't. And look, I, you know, as I said, I feel that the hooligans and arguing and fighting is fueled by drink. And I think, you know, like maybe a little bit of respect for cultures, maybe a little bit of time. Okay, I'm going to Qatar. It's a different culture. I've got to take that on board is a good thing. So
Perfect.
that's all I would
Thanks
say.
very much for
So
coming on. Emma.
thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Emma. You can
Thank
come on
you.
anytime.
Max, she actually did make a
No,
valuable
it's
point.
no, but that, I know,
You know?
but for me, Paul, there should have been like a kind of meeting in the middle ground. That's the kind of. I'm not saying that Qatar should just have a free for all, a Mardi Gras parade down the middle of the strippers, that kind of thing. But for me, if they're going to be hosting these kind of events, I think there's got to be some kind of middle ground for different cultures and stuff like that. I mean, it's like, I mean, I'm not wanting to get into this kind of area, but look at what if the World Cup was in a country where the age of consent was only 13 or 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you turn
exactly.
a blind eye to that? Do you get that's the kind of thing to you? For me,
Gary Glitter will be fucking his tickets.
but if you're going to go down that route, if you're going into this other country, you've got to respect their kind of laws and that. Some countries' laws you don't agree with. Do you know what I mean?
I think as well, like what she's saying there as well, Mark, and that this could be a World Cup, Mark, where we actually won't see much violence.
No, the English will be raging when they go there and they're no drink, and then they'll meet up with the Germans, and that'll be they two. Just do you know what I mean? There will be the England fans can't go anywhere.
No.
That's basically. Do you know what I mean? That's basically what it is. The England fans will be there. They'll cause bother, whether there's drink involved or no.
Are you still?
Can you drink? Can you drink it in hotels and places?
You can drink in your hotel. Within your own closed doors, you can drink.
So there is alcohol still available to the fans, just not actually about around the matches.
Thank God Scotland aren't over there, because they'd be faking buckfast all over the fucking the hotel bedroom. Steph Boy Jammer be fucking eating the head of him, flashing back the buckfast and piss going out in the streets in Qatar. You know,
probably it'll just mean that they're actually just drinking in their hotel to the last minute before they're going to games. And look at we know the problems of that. Fans try to get into these big stadiums like at the last minute after what happened at the Champions League final and that.
Exactly. Terence, your wife did make good points, man. In fairness to her, she really did. You know,
she better make me a cup of tea now.
You know, like in fairness, let's, instead of talking about this corruption going on, you know, hopefully from today on, we're actually talking about the football. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's all you ever want to talk about, Paul, in any sporting event, like a big event like this, whether it's the Football World Cup, a Rugby World Cup, whatever it is. That's all you want to be talking about is the games. You don't want to be talking about off-field nonsense, whether it's corruption stuff, or in football side of things, and hooligans and fighting and stuff like that. No one wants to see a World Cup that's scarred with that. Like all the best World Cups that you can remember, or any best sporting event you can remember, it's about the games that have been played. It's not about stuff that's went off the field.
Are we still sticking with Argentina, Mark, or any kind of change of mind there, or do you think who for you is an underdog in this World Cup?
America.
They have a young team, Mark, don't they? They do. That's
who I'm going for, America. I don't know. Maybe no happen while I'm alive.
I think the heat, Mark, could pull up is a main factor in this.
I think that'll play a big part. I think that will. That's how I kind of think it's more like probably. I think
Uruguay, Mark, could be. I think Uruguay, Mark, could be an underdog. Uruguay.
I don't like game.
I know, but they've nice young players come through. They've got a Nunes there for Liverpool. They've a nice young team like Uruguay. Before used to always kind of bringing an Asian team, bringing an Asian team to the World Cup. There all seem to be older players than what was there. You know what I mean? And today, this team is young. Like, I think they're oldest players, Cavani, but
Croatia for me is it?
Croatia, Terence, there's another underdog, like,
Yeah, just something about them. Like them, like.
I just think, even as you're saying, Paul, the heat and the humidity and stuff like that, and everything can play a big
I was reading
factor
there today, Mark. Right, there's in the stadium where England is playing tomorrow, right? There's 30 extra air conditioning ventilators put in there. Do you know where the dugouts are?
Aye.
There's ventilation units put in around them. There's AC put in.
Right away, Paul, that kind of messes up with prime conditions for guys for England, guys for France, guys. Do you get what I mean? When you're not messing about with air conditioning in stadiums and stuff like that, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your players. It really is.
But it's blown out. It's blown out cold air and it's blown out wet water. That's what the air conditioning is doing. So it's going to be like a rain effect or something like that, Terence,
Yeah, but the problem is, Paul, it's not the heat, it's the humidity.
Yeah,
that's what's going to kill them. It's like a lot of countries, like obviously south of France and even the likes of Croatia and a lot of these other places, the weather is very warm. It's the humidity over these places is unbelievable. It just literally, it's like someone sticking 10 hair dryers in your face. Like
when I was over in Poland this year, like, and it was hitting 40, and it was 30 at night time. It was actually couldn't breathe in it. Do you know what I mean? That was the problem. Yeah. You couldn't breathe in it. Like England are playing at 1 o'clock tomorrow. That's going to be prime hot for humidity and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
It's going like I mean I know what you're saying. You're throwing out the water and stuff.
That's our time,
1 o'clock.
Yeah, that's our time.
Like, I know. Yes, I think there could be 7 or 8 hours in the difference. So it could be the evening time over there, Paul.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, but it'd still be kind of humidity over there, Terence, would it? Yeah.
It'll still be very, very warm, but I mean, no matter what you're going to do, acclimatization, their bodies just, especially the European players, their bodies just will not be used to that at all. Like you'll definitely see huge rotation of squads and subs and everything on all the teams because.
Should you see it there? When they were showing on Sky News, they were showing the training sessions, of the England team. They were bayed out coming off that training session. Like it was like a shock to the system. That's what it is. Like.
I'm actually surprised that the football kind of went as long as it did, to be honest. Because see, like over the years, I can always remember it was like. Remember when the Republic went over and Roy Keane took a hissy fit in Japan?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was like they were over there like 2 weeks before the World Cup started and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and it's only been like a week of that now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe again because that was the summer, it was kind of.
Yeah, they were kind of off, and Mark, weren't they? Yeah, and then they kind of. But Mark, what's going to happen now?
Let's have a couple of good games on the more. That Senegal Netherlands game.
Senegal Netherlands, we have Wales and USA, and we've England and Iran. I think. Look, I don't want to talk about England, but if they had a different manager rather than Southgate, with the players they have, they'd be well capable of winning that World Cup. But he's too defensive.
Away you go.
Oh, Mark, they do have a tactic there. They do.
Who? Where?
mean,
Maybe,
look
but-
at Harry Kane. They're one of the dangerous fucking strikers in the world. I mean, if you provide him, it's just Southgate's too defensive for them. Southgate will play 5 at the back probably against Iran tomorrow, not to concede a goal. Do you know what I mean? You saw him against the Nations League. I mean, what manager now plays 5 defenders in the game?
Big jabber on FIFA.
You know,
Big
but he
jabber
does,
on
Mark.
FIFA. The big
I
shine in the
really think
bucket.
Southgate, like not necessarily win it, but did go far with more of an attacking football. You know what I mean? Like, they would have beaten Italy only for he stayed defensive that time in the European Championships. Italy were there for the taking. You know,
No, I don't think England have got a hope in hell, Paul. I honestly
but
don't.
that's what I'm saying. They don't, Mark, with Southgate.
I mean, when you look at the England teams over the years, right? Look back to like the golden generation with Beckham, Scholes, Rio Ferdinand, even fucking Gerrard and that. You get in, they couldn't do anything. Right, but there was always a kind of split in the camp meant to be between club
that was kind
allegiances and
of with the top
But
players back then, wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, right, apart from Harry Kane, who else in the England team would you say is like genuinely world class?
Not really, Matt, but they're good players. They'd be capable of winning games.
Well,
Do you know what I
that's
mean?
just like Poland,
Yeah,
but Paul,
yeah,
Poland
yeah.
have got Lewandowski up front.
You know, I said to you,
Apart-
Mark, they'll go. They'll get to the knockout stage as well, but it all depends on Lewandowski, what way
Aye,
he plays.
but
If he
that's
steps up,
exactly
yeah,
but that's the same with England, is it?
that's
No,
the same. Like, yeah, but
if
what
Harry
I'm saying,
Kane
Mark,
comes
is
up, maybe.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying with Southgate. Like, what we say there with Ange, we're putting in crosses to suit Giamarcus, but we don't play Giamarcus. They don't play to Harry Kane's strengths. Do you get me? Southgate doesn't.
Aye,
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you play like you see Harry Kane there, Mark, for England, he's coming up to the halfway line trying to get the ball. Do you know what I mean? Harry Kane should be doing that at all. You know. What about Holland? Like they have a good squad as well. Actually, Holland.
they'll probably self-employed, Paul. They
always
always seem to
do.
do that. Aye, for some strange reason.
They
I
do.
don't know
They
why.
just blow. Everything
Aye.
just falls apart, don't they? Yeah.
Holland and Belgium both, Paul. Look at their squads.
Yeah,
Their squads
Belgium,
are
yeah.
phenomenal. But when it comes to the crunch, they never deliver. These
That's what
current
people are actually saying
squads, they
about
never
Belgium.
deliver.
That Belgium will crumble again.
But they
Germany
don't-
as well. You can't write off Germany either. You know what
No.
I mean? They're always going to be there or thereabouts.
But they want the new management now as well, isn't he? He's gone, isn't he? Low, isn't he? He's not there now anymore, isn't he?
No, I don't think so, no.
It's the fella that was with Bayern Munich, wasn't they? Herzenberg, his name was, I think.
Aye.
Is
They're
with them
tried
now,
and
like.
tested.
Yeah.
They're just tried and tested, the Germans. They
Yeah.
know when it comes to this level, a little bit like Italy used to be, but Germany were always. They just know how to get the job done.
Can you
Even
imagine?
I like Germany. I've liked
Yeah.
Germany over the years watching them and that.
I like
But
Mark,
they've always known how to get it done, though.
They
You
do,
look at
yeah.
squads and you think, oh, they
it's like
don't
Real
look the
Madrid.
best.
It's like Real Madrid, the Champions
Yeah.
League, isn't this? They know how to win it. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
You know,
They know how to
that's
get
what
done,
people
yeah.
say about Germany. Yeah, you know, like imagine, like as long as I'm alive now, and since I'm watching football, I never watched the World Cup without Italy in it. You know what I mean? Like it was always Italy were always in the knockout stages of a World
Aye.
Cup. Like, you know what I mean? Like imagine like a big football country like Italy getting knocked out by Macedonia
know,
that time, Mark.
I
You know what I
know.
mean? You know,
I think
Jesus.
I think that's maybe the first World Cup I can even remember that
Yeah.
was not been in.
Yeah.
They won the first one I can mind in Spain in '82. They won that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Tardelli.
Tardelli, yeah,
James.
Tardelli, and Tardelli was there.
Paolo Rossi.
Oh, Rossi, yeah.
He just
Um,
came back from was that a
just,
drug
Mark,
drug
just
ban
what
or
you
a
were saying there,
doping
Mark,
ban or
Dino
about,
what?
Zaff was in goals. Wasn't he? Dino
Aye.
Zaff was in goals. He was about 40 or something in goals.
Aye.
Mark, just
Aye,
about what
looked
you were
about
saying there,
60.
Mark, what you were saying about England there at the time when they had the Frank Lampards and Gerrards and thing, but there was kind of a rift between the two. That was the same with the Spanish international team for years, wasn't it?
Aye,
Between the Barcelona and it was
Aye.
what was his name? They called the big heavy fella with the moustache, Le Bosque, is it?
Aye,
Came in and he
aye.
changed it all, didn't he? He came in, he changed all that. You know?
Aye, there's always been that kind of split between like the Real Madrid camp and
Yeah,
Barcelona
I
camp.
remember that. Yeah, for
And
years.
I'm not saying that. I don't even know if I should say this. Over the years, I've kind of picked up that sees a lot of the stuff with the Dutch is more like a race thing. You get what I mean?
Really?
It's like, aye, it's more like a kind of like the black guys like Hewlett and that kind of were more Rijkaard were a wee clique, and then the rest of them were all like another wee clique. But I'm not saying that's true, but I've read about that a few times over the years. That's been kind of one of the main problems.
Wouldn't surprise me because it was different times back then as well, wasn't it?
Aye. I think
Do
a
you know
lot
what I
of
mean?
that came into it.
You know, what about Spain? You can't write off Spain either. You know, there's teams there that you won't even think of that could win this World Cup. Like, I really think kind of a
Brazil.
South American team this year. Yeah,
You can't write off Brazil either.
no,
You
that's
know,
right.
really,
I think, Mark, I think Brazil could be the team this year. Boy, you know what I mean? People are expecting Messi again to flop with Argentina, like he always kind of does. He's not the same player.
no.
He is a club level, really, with that because he's not with
Maybe
better.
the drug
He's not with
testing's
big players, Mark,
maybe
is he?
maybe the drug testing's a bit stricter at these international tournaments.
Why is that? Why he's in drugs?
Who, Messi?
Yeah.
Well, he's doing that hormone growth stuff and that, isn't he? He's been on that all his
Oh, he's
life.
been on that for years, sure, hasn't he? Yeah.
Aye. And
You know,
his blood transplants with that Dr. Fuentes and all that kind of stuff.
it's good. I just can't wait for the kind of group stages are kind of just there
Get 'em
and
out of the
then.
way
Like,
kind of jobs.
once you get them out of the way, that's when the big games kind of happen, Terence. And then you kind of know then who really is on form and who's not. You can nearly predict the winner on the team that's kind of on form, can't you? You know.
Yeah, you can. Well, it's always nicer to watch, for argument's sake, if Brazil and Argentina are playing, or Spain are playing Croatia, or Belgium and playing Holland. You know, I suppose for me, and I'm not massive into the football side. I said to fellas in work, I support Celtic. I watch Celtic. I don't watch a huge amount of football outside Celtic. You know, I just don't. I would. Whereas I'd likely know a lot more if Hollanders playing Belgium. I'd know a lot more of those players than, for argument's sake, if Uruguay were playing Belgium. Where, do you know if that makes any
The
sense?
thing that I like is
It's like Mikey will be, do you know what I mean? Terence, Mikey will be genned up on.
Stop listening.
I will as well, Mark. Yeah, I will as well because you're seeing different ways of football being played. Do you know what I mean? You're expecting fast free football from America, and they're coming up then against a defensive European team. Do you know what I mean? You know, something that they haven't come up against. You know, it's going to be interesting. You know, I wonder will Vickers start tomorrow for Wales against Wales? It's not a big question, right? It'd be interesting to see how Vickers plays Mark with the USA.
I wouldn't mind if he doesn't get a kick at the ball in the entire tournament.
Aye.
And then being perfectly honest,
I don't know how.
I'd rather be quite comfortable. I don't think he'd be starting though, Paul. I have no reasons to say why, but I think I wouldn't think he was one of the starting centre backs.
No,
that's
but
only my opinion.
You know what, though, Terence? I'm just delighted he got caught up because
that
was his main concern. Mark wanted when he was signing for Celtic. Would he get caught up to the USA team
and going to just get forgot about stuck in Scotland?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And that's, for me, that's the biggest thing about this World Cup is that we have 4 players involved in the World Cup because it shows now that you can play with Celtic, and because we qualified the Champions League, there's a chance you will get called up to your national team. Look at Yasser getting called up for the provisional thing. Who's to say now that Yasser mightn't go that step further, Mark, in the European Championships and get called up? Do you know what I mean? You know?
Yeah, Paul, that's it. There, I've just put that. That's the predicted starting 11 for America, the more.
Predicted. So we have Turner, Diaz, Zimin, Ream, and Robson. Musa, he's actually good. Him as well, Musa. The fella Adams plays with them. Leeds, don't he?
Aye.
Plays with Leeds.
Timo
and you've
Weah.
Kusek for Chelsea. They have a good team, Mark. Like they do. Like they have a lot of players playing outside the USA before.
Just for the amount, see for the size of country, America, Paul, and the amount of people that are there, eventually they're going to put together a good soccer team. Do you know what I mean? And they, but just for the amount of people, it's like people like Brazil's just the amount of people that are in the country. There's always these kind of levels that rise to the top, and in America they've got all these kind of no graduation things. These scholarship. If you're good at something, you're going to college and you're getting drilled into being better at that, isn't it?
But as well too, if you look at Brazil though, Mark, Brazil's sport within reason that everybody knows is Brazil is known for football, soccer, whatever you want to call it. America, there's probably
American football and baseball and stuff like that,
there's probably 4 or 5 sports before you even get to the football, soccer. They'd have, American football, they'd have basketball, they'd have ice hockey,
it's moving up now, isn't it? It's moving up now. That's what I mean, Terence.
It's creeping up. It's getting bigger and bigger. Yeah,
it's definitely much more popular, but it's still going to be, down the pecking order. Like obviously England is main sport is football. Probably Scotland's main sport is football. Whereas like even in Ireland, with the greatest respect, if you came to Ireland, football is probably could be 3 or 4. Depending on what you're probably at the minute.
Depending who you're asking, into
Rugby's probably number 1 at the minute. Then there's hurling. Then there's it's probably football and Gaelic football and soccer.
Yeah, soccer's gone
probably
way
making
down
next third.
Yeah,
they're probably down there.
Rugby's after taking over everything here. Yeah, really has here, Mark. Right. Really has.
It's massive. Like whereas you go to the countries where it's their main sport, you naturally assume that, like as I said, Brazil, everyone in Brazil would want to play for Brazil, play for the national team. Same with everyone in Argentina. Even though Argentina
never know when you go off to Brazil. You never. If you go off to Brazil, it's such a poor country. The 10p nearest to the wall might be the number 1 sport over there. You never know.
No, but that's all I'm saying. It's with the likes of America, even though it's progressing, it's still a long way down the pecking order of being up to top sports.
There's so many different sports over there. Yeah,
it's very hard to compete when the other teams. Some of the other teams you're competing against are at. That's their bread and butter. That's their main sport. Like,
I think Qatar football team could be Rangers of the Champions League. I think they could be the worst football nation. I think there's only one host team that got knocked out at a qualifying stage. I think that was South Africa. I think Qatar will be. Just looking at them today, they look like a team that they've never played together. They just really didn't. They look like a footballing team to me. So shocking. They really.
What were you expecting? But
nothing really. I was expecting nothing.
I mean, it's not going. I don't know. Some wee island off the coast of Italy for the world. Do you get what I mean?
But they've one fella, Mark. They've one fella called Fia. He's playing with Villarreal in Spain.
No, but one guy doesn't make a team, Paul.
I know that, but I'm saying I was watching him today, Terence. I was looking going, how is this fella playing outside Europe? Do you know what I mean? I actually don't know if he's actually still with him. I have to check that up. But he was like their kind of star man. I
saw one guy that popped up and said he'd played something like 11 games for Sporting Gijon back in 2016.
That was their captain, I think, Mark. Yeah, that was their captain.
I thought to myself, oh my God, man. This
he was their captain, I think. He was the longest serving player. And let's be honest, right? If Qatar didn't get this World Cup, the Qatar national team were never playing in the World Cup. Yeah, exactly, man. Do you know what I mean?
Not a chance.
And I think that's why this World Cup was done there, to get the likes of Qatar into a World Cup. And Terrence's wife made some. Hopefully this World Cup is remembered for football and not stuff off the pitch, which I hope it is, Mark. I hope we're not talking about freaking stuff off the pitch all the time. You don't want that. But if it happens, you have to talk about it. Do you know what I mean?
At least we're not talking about VAR.
The problem is as well, Paul. If anything does happen off the field, it's happening. You might hear about it, but they'll pay the price, and they'll pay the price dearly, because they're not countries over there to take that stuff lightly, and the punishments would be severe. And
that's what the point Terence Emma was making there. you're going over there, and if you do respect their rules, you're putting, you know what the country's about. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh, you know
And you'd be
beforehand,
a
like, you
fool
know
to
what I
go
mean?
over there, Mark, to go over there and not respect their rules when you know that what they're there. Do you know what I mean? You know,
But people have out there think the rules are relaxed a bit, Paul. That's what we're saying with the
that's what I'm
Budweiser
saying,
thing.
yeah, because they're told that, yeah.
I mean, obviously, I mean, I don't even know is it Qatar the country or is it Qatar the FA that's like running this? Do you know what I mean?
No, it's
But
the
they've
government,
obviously
Mark. The government
they've
are
al- aye,
running
but
this boy, yeah.
they've obviously came to agreements with FIFA, came to agreements with Budweiser, came to agreements with I don't know MasterCard,
Do you know the crowd, Mark? Do you know the
Sony,
crowd
whatever.
do you know the crowd that owns Paris Saint-Germain, the Qatari Airways?
Aye,
They're
Yes, then.
involved in this World Cup being in Qatar. They're running a lot of the things going on because they have football experience being with Paris Saint-Germain. So they were the ones I was reading are behind putting the football stadium in place, getting all the facilities up to scratch. It's their officials that have set up everything around Qatar. Is the Qatari-based officials of Paris Saint-Germain. It wouldn't surprise me now if they sacked the Qatar players tonight and requested to FIFA can they play the Paris Saint-Germain team in Qatari colours in the next match. And FIFA will probably be so afraid to say something they probably let it. Do you know what I mean? There's Neymar and Messi playing for Qatar against Brazil and Argentina.
but is that no the same people that? Is it no people for Qatar that bought Newcastle?
No, they're separate based. But they're all, Mac, do you know what, Mac? They're all
So
linked.
they're all cousins and
I
Yeah.
think I could be wrong. I think it's the Saudis, Mark, bought
Saudis.
Is
Newcastle.
it? Aye.
It's the Saudis, yeah. And it's lads from Dubai then that bought Man City into the Emirates, is it?
Yeah,
Or the Emirates and Luke?
it's either Dubai or Abu Dhabi, that kind of neck of the woods.
Yeah,
But
they're
anyway,
bought that. Like.
they're all pretty wealthy.
It's just
Oh.
it's just all these oil shake billionaires kind of
Sure, Liverpool will be the next club, guarantee ya.
competing with into it like they're in kind of game of monopoly with football teams really into it.
Yeah,
What
Liverpool
would you
Mark, will
think
be.
if one? What would you think if one of them
No.
tried to buy Celtic?
I wouldn't, Mark, because
The Man City group
no,
or
but see,
something like
Mark,
that.
my problem with that, right? Fair enough if they come in and buy it, but then, right, if they decide in 10 years' time they want to leave, and if you have players on these big wages, which they pay them,
But they're not going to do that, Paul.
you
These
know,
see the
I don't think
actual
Mark Celtic is the
transformation,
attraction.
Paul.
I don't think Celtic at the moment, Mark, is the attraction for them because of the league we play in.
Yeah, if it was the European League, you could see it.
Yes. You know, if Celtic were down in the Premier League, Mark, and if David Desmond was
Aye.
still the owner, I think a bid like that would come in. And then, Mark, you say, well, would you take it then? Yeah, but because you're in a big league, Mark, you can take that risk, but not when you're in Scottish football, you can. Do you know what I mean? You know?
But it's just them pump money, really.
Yeah, that's it, like, you know.
I mean, as I keep going on about, like, look at PSG.
But Mark, you look at Man City then, though, right? Just look at Pep Guardiola. They've all this money to burn, and they get Haaland cheaper than United got Anthony from Ajax.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? So you have to say too, Mark, they are good negotiators. Do you know what I mean? United at the moment, Mark, we pay whatever you want.
Whether it's governments, royal families, whatever you want to call them, it's not just coming into like taking out the football club or that, Paul. These see like Man City.
They're appointing officials, Mark. Yeah,
but they've transformed the full area. The money they've spent, they've created jobs for a pure shithole of a corner of Manchester.
Yeah,
and that's
put in
Newcastle
these facilities,
the same
Mark,
in that as well.
But the thing about it, Mark, in their things, they put people in there to do the job. Like, they're not involved in the day-to-day dealings of Man City. Do you know what I mean? They have people in there who do these decisions for them. Like Pep Guardiola, like you said, Mark, he has his director of football doing that job for him.
Aye,
do you know what I mean? They have the right people in the right places. And that's why, like you said, Mark, if Pep Guardiola left Man City in the morning, the club's not going to crumble. The club stays the same. It's run the same. It's just a different manager will come in. You know. So you can't say they're run properly, Mark. You would say if you look across the road to Manchester United, then who would just crumble it. You know,
Exactly.
their star player coming out and basically shaming the whole club that it hasn't changed in the last 10 years since he left them. You know, like I heard Old Trafford is supposed to be a right kip.
Aye, it's falling apart, Paul.
Yeah, a right kip. A right kip, I heard.
Not spent any money on it for years, and even Ed too. He's told me, see, like when you go into
Yeah, you saying that to me, Mark, yeah.
the Carrington, like our training centre and our press stuff and everything, he says that's all miles behind what you see
I
at
think,
the
Mark,
top clubs.
I think, Mark, Lennoxtown now, Mark, and Celtic, not in finance-wise, but in football terms, Celtic's facilities would be better than Manchester United's. We've upped it. Look at that big, huge gym that we did.
I wouldn't go
do you
that
remember
far, Paul.
No, but this, I'm just
Man
going
United's
on.
got indoor, they've got indoor pitches and stuff like that, but still, Paul.
Yeah, but things saying that they're outdated, Mark, that there's nothing. We've
not got an indoor pitch.
Do you know when?
If it snows, we can't train.
Do you know when football evolved? Like the new sports, it's like this new gym we put in. Manchester United are supposed to have nothing like that, Mark. This big, huge, state-of-the-art gym. They have a basic gym with bikes and treadmills. That's it. Do you know what I mean? You know?
I'd say to be fair, Paul, they'd have a sports science crowd and all that, like, you know what I mean. So the biggest thing that I would see with Man United would be the fact that the Glazers have a sense of an interest in other sports. They have, if they're still are, but they had an American football team in the States. So whereas for me, you look at the Newcastle, Man City, Paris Saint-Germain, they don't have your American football team in America. Like for argument's sake,
it's just soccer. It's just soccer.
It's just soccer.
Yeah.
Whereas your man Henry, who owns Liverpool, or main guy, he
Red
also
Sox, he owns
it's the Boston Red Sox. He's involved.
Like,
he was. You know what I mean? So
I think they'd be the next club bought by a big investor like Man City, Liverpool. They'll be the next club because he put that up for sale, didn't he? The fella Henry.
Aye.
I think so.
Yeah.
But if you look at a lot of the American owners, not all of them, but a lot of the American owners that have come in to take over a lot of the Premiership clubs.
Money, Terence, and that's it, boy, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, they are there to make money, but
really.
No, they are there to make money, but a lot of them eventually kind of peter off. If you look at, I remember there was a guy I think over Aston Villa. I think some guy bought Aston Villa for a while, and it kind of went by the wayside. And there was one or two other clubs were involved with, I think, American style guys, whether it's part owners or full owners, and that's petered out as well. You know, whereas sometimes they're looking for short term gains as quickly as they can to get in and get out. The likes of the Dubais and the Qatars and the Emirates and all these other boys, they don't need that. You have to remember, this is the guy who looks after Man City. I'm not sure if he's a prince or a well up royal family guy. He may be. Yeah, like they sponsored the Man City Stadium for $1 billion.
Yeah,
$1 billion.
Exactly.
$1 billion or whatever
euros. The club's finances.
That's just to get around financial
fair play.
Aye. Yeah, but didn't Paris Saint-Germain do the same, didn't they?
Aye.
Yeah.
They're telling people that kind of thing's going to stop, but they can't stop it.
No, Mark, it's a company sponsoring a club.
No matter how much they want to pay, whether they can tell, that's a bit suspicious, you owe them, and blah, blah, blah. It's like I've said to you, Paul, if Dermot Desmond wants to sponsor Celtic...
Mark, it'd be still known as Celtic Park by the fans.
Sandy Beach Resorts or something on the Celtic top for 20 million a year. They can't stop them doing it.
What are you going to do, Mark? You're just putting the name on the seats inside the stadium. You're changing a few seats to put in the name of the stadium. It's always going to be known Celtic Park, Parkhead by kind of the older generation. Do you know what I mean? No one's going to call it and going down to the Sandy Beach Stadium. Do you know what I mean?
What I would
say that in Scotland to a fella drinking Buckfast. Hi, I'm looking for the Sandy Beach Stadium. Sorry, what?
What it would mean, Paul, about the guys looking after those other stadiums, Newcastle United or Man City or Paris Saint-Germain. If you're putting that much into a club, you have no intention of leaving it anytime soon.
No.
No.
I think the biggest problem about United, Mark, is that it's the money that the Glazers are taking out every year.
Aye.
Do you know
Aye.
what I mean? And they're investing. They actually invested none of their own money into that
No.
football club.
It's
You
a
know?
bit like that.
Even to
kinda-
buy it, they took out a loan, wasn't it, Mark?
Aye.
Mm.
It's a bit like
Yeah.
that kind of like mind Rangers with that ticket stuff and that. I mean, there's clubs up. I don't even know if they still exist, but at the time, there's clubs up and down the country that use that ticket service for just to tide them out towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
And that was basically what Man United done. They took out loans to buy the club, and that's not basically. If you can't afford to buy the club, they shouldn't have been allowed to buy the club.
Exactly,
really, the
Mark.
Glazers. They really shouldn't
Exactly.
have.
Man. How could you put the club in debt to buy the club?
I mean, that's just like us three going to the bank and asking for a
Exactly.
loan for £500 million to go and try and buy Celtic.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
They probably just done it by offsetting it, Paul, against. As I said, I know they're involved, whether they still are or owners
They
of
could
an
have put
American
that
football
against their
club.
other clubs then, Terence, couldn't they?
Yeah, they probably put up their other club as collateral or as a section of their own club as collateral to say we
Didn't get it
own.
for nothing,
We just say
really, like.
we just say for argument's sake, we own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not saying it's them, just allegedly, but just suppose that as an example. And they say we have this. This is how much we normally make. Blah blah blah. We need to borrow X amount on the value of this. And they're going, yeah, grand, and it allows them then to buy Man United, but they still have a loan, and the loan is Man United's loan. It's not their loan. You know, so it's in United are already in debt.
Plus they're paying back your loans, and plus they're paying themselves their dividends every year.
Yeah, exactly, Mark. Yeah, I wouldn't have never if it was me anyway. I think they made a mistake bringing back Ronaldo. I think he's just too. His ego is too big.
Yeah, but they only done that, Paul, because he was going to Man City.
Yeah,
he was going to Man City, and it was Alex Ferguson that phoned Ronaldo and said, "Come on, you can't."
But if you look then, Mark, right, to when he did come in, right, they were on a good run at that time when Solskjaer was doing well. They were getting behind the wheel of results, and then they brings in Feckel's thing, and then you have to change your style to suit Ronaldo because he's not fast anymore. It's fair enough; he gets you goals. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know, man. Where's the next? Where can you see him going? Where's his next move? Do you think
Surely
a big club will come in?
Surely he'd have to go. He'd have to go to Sporting Lisbon.
Think so, Terence?
I think he'll go to America. I think he'll go to America.
Do you think Bayern Munich are there? There's talks of Bayern there.
No, he doesn't go to Bayern Munich.
But he doesn't need the money. Like, surely to God, he should repay his old club and give him a season or two. Like,
come to Celtic.
Do you know what's pissing him off? Is Messi is scoring goals in the Champions League, and Messi outscored him now with most goals in the Champions League. That's what's pissed him off. Is the champion? That's why he wants to play in the Champions League. To score goals.
Come to Celtic.
Would you take him?
Of course you would.
Can't really say no, Mark, can you?
Of course. Do you know
what I mean? You want that. Do you know what I mean? But you can't, man. You can't. I saw a Rangers fan put it up. First, he said he wanted Tuchel. All right, get Tuchel in, and then Tuchel will be able to convince Ronaldo in a free in January to come in January. And I'm looking, going, man, what planet are you on? Do you know what I mean? Tuchel and Ronaldo.
Imagine Celtic did something like that, but
Mark, they'll crumble over there, wouldn't they? That would actually be, but they still say Denmark they signed Aaron Ramsey. Do you know what I mean? In fairness, like, come on, Aaron Ramsey. Do you know what I mean?
Chris Boyd still the best striker ever to play in Scotland.
Jesus Christ, man. In fairness, though.
But see, if I was running Celtic, I would be that cheeky. I would. I'd be like,
just to piss them off, Mark. Yeah. Just to see their reaction.
I was just going to say that, Terence. If you don't ask the question, you're never going to know. So even, I mean, he's desperate to go to Man United. Imagine
Mark,
Mark, we'll take your loan. No, we'll take your loan.
We're guaranteed Champions League football next season. Do you know what I mean? We tick all the boxes.
For years, Paul, you used to read in the paper, so-and-so wanted to leave so-and-so because he wanted to play Champions League football, right? And that was just bullshit. What they wanted was the wages these big Champions League clubs pay. Because see, if that was the case that you just wanted to play Champions League football,
come to Celtic,
why not come and play for celtic? So it's just thought today with But just basically doing
You
money.
get 200 grand a week off this crowd.
Aye,
That's the
aye.
difference.
That's it for tonight, lads. We'll be back again Thursday night, where we look back on the kind of oh, sorry, I'm away. I'm in Dublin for till Saturday. Apologies for that. We'll be back someday next week, but we'll sort it out. We'll talk about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday games. We might come on Wednesday night, Mark, will we?
I've not got a holiday slip for you, Paul.
No, I didn't. But I forgot to say that, you boy. Yeah, Jesus Christ. You
I
know,
don't know if I can give. I don't know if I can give that time off.
driving up to Dublin on the motorway, doing a podcast, going in and out of the reception. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? You know, thanks to Terence for coming on. Thanks to Terence's wife Emma for shedding a bit of light on the World Cup for us. It gives a different opinion, which I kind of swore towards our way that we should be. We're expecting some Qatari laws over there. Sarah, she's going to be back on Sunday night when Terence will be babysitting. Mark, we close the show.
That's me screwing.
Well, Mark, we always said, Mark, we wanted a female viewer to come on, and we got it.
Jack's raging at Emma's.
Mark's dead. Mark's dead when he closed
I'm going to get barred when I go for here.
Tell me that. Are we doing a pod? No, Jack said I can't do it by the weekend. Mark, we close the show.
Thanks again, Paul, for having your day. Terence, thanks very much for coming on. Everybody that listens in, comes into the live chat, listens back to us later on, that, thanks very much. It's really appreciate it. Remember, hit the like button, leave a comment if you can. And if you can afford anything, please give something to our Christmas appeal for a food bank. Thanks very much, lads. Hail, hail, good night, and God bless.